We ready in the back? Wait for the voice.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't sound very sure.
Was that Sherry?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sherry. Okay, so we'll get going. It's the funnest part of the night. Call to order. Let me read. Get my Post-its out of the way. So again, this is a regular meeting of the Ojai Historic Preservation Commission. It is Thursday, November 9th, 2023, and 5 o'clock p.m., and we are here in the council chambers. Sherry, could I get a roll call, please?
Chair Akins,
Here.
Vice Chair McCatton,
Here.
Commissioner Basasha,
Here.
Commissioner Walker,
There we go. Okay.
Commissioner Jones-Sims.
There we go. Sweet. We're going to get to you in a minute. Okay, I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance at this time, so I ask everyone to please stand, face the flag that's behind me, and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Public communications. Public communications is the time set aside during the Historic Preservation Commission meeting for members of the public to address the Historic Preservation Commission on items of city business other than scheduled agenda items. Matters raised at this time may be briefly discussed by the commission and will generally be referred to staff and/or placed on a subsequent agenda. Under state law, other than for emergency items, no action can be taken at this meeting as regards public communications. Next item on our agenda is the museum representative report. I did not get information from Wendy, but I will tell you that the museum opened a new exhibit a couple of weeks ago. The attendance was amazing. A lot of people showed up. It is a art display that is a kind of a level above what the museum's been able to do in the past. And so it involves, I think it's 26 different artists that either live in the community of, in the Ojai Valley, have somehow been associated with the community of Ojai. These are named artists that are fairly well known. They come from different places, and they agreed to do a painting of a location that they were either inspired to paint or that they chose to go out and paint from. So it was interesting to see that array. They did a map for that. The artists happened to have picked their spots that range from the tip of Lake Casitas to our left to the west, all the way to the Koningsteigen Road, which is as high as you can get in Upper Ojai. And so they were stretched all the way through that almost equally. I expected there would be pockets of artists, but it was spread throughout. So again, a wonderful exhibit. It is going until I think the end of the first week in February. Again, that's at the Ojai Valley Museum. They just expanded their hours, so they are open now. Thursday, Friday are open. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I believe. I'm going to get shot for this if I get it wrong, from 10 to 4. They have a new sign that's out front just in case I get it wrong. So again, that's our museum representative report update. Also, I happen to be the president of the Ojai Valley Museum. Okay, so before we start on consent items and those move forward on the agenda, we have a new commissioner who has just joined us, Loran Sims. Loran is so we have 5 commissioners here. This is important to many people in the valley. Loren is our third commissioner who is a resident of the city of Ojai. Mr. Walker and I are two of those nefarious non-resident commissioners, but two non-resident commissioners. So we do have 5 at this time. There is, I'll go through a little bit more after we ask. Loren, could you please tell us about it yourself, and tell us a little bit about what you've been watching for the last couple of years.
Well, ever since the pandemic and my husband retired and I retired with him, I've taken a lot of interest in watching all of the meetings, the commission meetings, everything. And I find them fascinating. And you just don't know your community unless you take the time to listen and learn what's going on here in the valley, in the entire valley. So it's a special place. I've lived here on and off for a total of 60 years. Came here in 1962, and Ojai has changed a lot between then and now, but it's still a wonderful place, and I desire to be on this commission because I want to see Ojai continue to be the wonderful place that it is now and will continue to be.
Well, thank you very much. And there's a story behind picking grapes in the orchard where
I have known Rick since 4th grade. I've known Craig Walker probably way before that. And my husband, Dr. Sims, was picking grapes out at a place here in the valley, in the city, and came upon Rick, who was on the other side of the grapevine, I guess that was. And you started chatting, and Rick decided that it would be a good idea if I might take this up.
And the rest is history.
Yes. So here I am.
So thank you, Rick, and thank you, Loren. We're happy to
Welcome.
have you with us. So I will, just as an update on, got this information today. This is actually in the packet for the City Council that will meet next Tuesday. I've been working with the City Council, attending multiple meetings for the last 11 months. And so the City Council, in several of the meetings over this last year and in the meeting that's coming up on this next Tuesday, will be, I believe, finalizing the guidance that they've included for, or come up with for the commissions. Right at this time, I want to recognize that our council liaison for this quarter is Councilwoman Susan Francina, who's sitting back there in the dark. So we're happy to have you here with us, Susan. So the commission has, or the council has been talking about much about all things about the commissions, about the number of people on each commission, the composition of those commissions, and again, composition and the resident, non-resident on that. So because of what they said, the HPC has been unable to meet the residential. This is an update.
Thank you for the update. That's at the, for the next, or the upcoming council meeting. Yeah. So that
I'm
you're,
sorry, what?
oh, I just wanted to thank you for the update for what's coming up on the council agenda.
Yes.
It's not on our agenda, but it's on theirs, and I wanted to thank you for the update. That's all.
Oh, well, thank you. So the reason I bring this up is that we still have 2 openings that are, we anticipate, under current guidance, we anticipate that we will have 2 openings coming up when we're allowed to go to 7 members. And so I just want to get that out to the public.
Thanks. I also, as staff, wanted to welcome Commissioner Jones Sims. Is that how you would like to be recognized, or just Sims?
Sims is
Sims.
perfect.
Okay, Commissioner Sims, thank you so much for being here and joining the commission. And I also want to take the time to introduce Kyla Danforth. I said that right, your last name. Kyla has taken Alex's position. You remember Alex? Well, obviously Commissioner Sims won't, but the rest of you. And so Kyla is a new addition to our staff, and you'll see her from time to time. She'll probably be taking over in the back as Alex had for a bit. And then she might be sitting right here in this seat. So, welcome, Kyla.
Yes, welcome, Kyla. Happy to have you with us. Okay, so item number 1 is the consent items. This is to review the minutes of the August 10th, 2023 regular meeting. And so I open it up to our commissioners on whether you have any changes,
I don't have-
corrections.
I don't have changes. I just want, I did watch the meeting, but it will just be the 3 of you because I was absent and you weren't on here yet. So just wanted to remind us that the 2 of us will be abstaining.
Okay,
And I don't see any changes from listening to it.
okay. Rick, any changes?
No, see anything, so.
Okay, Craig?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so which one of you would like to make a motion and which one of you would like to second it?
I'll move.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. Roll call, Sherry?
Akins,
Yes.
McCatton,
Abstain?
Walker,
Yes.
Basasha,
Yes.
Sims. Sims.
Abstain.
Great, thank you. That card can go over there. Okay, so disclosure of site visits and ex parte contacts. We have this on there because we have the 2 items that involve physical property that we're going to be discussing tonight. So I will tell you that I looked at the properties that are on the structures of merit list. I went through those earlier this week. There were a few of them, about 5 of them, that I had not been to recently. And so I went out and visited several of these just to see, and the purpose was to see what kind of condition they're in the present state. I only looked at the buildings that I could see. I did not talk to anyone. So anybody else go out and visit any of the structures of merit? I think that's really the one that's more pertinent than
Yes,
the downtown historic district.
I
So,
did the same
yes.
as you. I went around and visited as many as I could just to get a visual look at them, but I didn't talk to anyone about it.
Okay, great, thank you.
I didn't go to any, except I was walking around Matilaha Junior High School with my dogs, but that was very informal.
That is important. That's a longer walk than probably the other properties that are on there. Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Discussion item is item number 2 is the annual 2023 Historic Preservation Award and Lifetime Achievement Award. Staff report, Mara?
At the July 13th HPC meeting, the commission discussed potential nominees and selected candidates to consider as recipients of both Historic Preservation Award and the Lifetime Achievement Award based on specific criteria. And on August 10th, the commission discussed the specific nominees, Joyce Robinson, Mark Lewis, Tiffany Rochelle, and Paul Hibbler, to be recipients of the Historic Preservation Award, and Commissioner, or Chair Akins, to be recipient of the Historic Preservation Lifetime Achievement Award, and directed staff to come back with a resolution for the commission to adopt. And this evening, you have a resolution to adopt, and the recommendation is that you will adopt the resolution requesting that the City Council ratify the commission's recommendations and for the awards for 2023. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you to do
Okay.
that.
Any questions of staff? Nope. Okay, so the key tonight is to go through the resolution that Mara has prepared for us, review that, and vote to put forward or table that. From there, with that, if that vote is successful and going forward, It will then be relayed to the city council, and they will set it for inclusion in their agenda. They are now aware that this is coming, and so there's a hopeful date, but I'll let that stay with the council. You don't know anything, correct?
No, well, this has to be done before we can actually put it on the council agenda, so.
Yes. Yeah. So,
So with that, unless there's any kind of discussion, I mean, after what I've said and what the chair has just said, you can probably take a vote now, unless you want to discuss
yeah,
anything
I would
about
just
them.
gonna see if people have any discussion. But again, our goal or our timeframe, as has been customarily done in the 9 years I've been around, is that is presented in the first meeting and what is going to be the only meeting in December. So again, that will be up to council and to the interim city manager who sets the agenda with the mayor. Okay, so do we have a motion then to,
I'll make that motion to adopt.
okay, and second? Okay, Sherry?
Akins,
Yes.
McCatton,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Basasha,
Yes.
Sims.
Yes.
Great, thank you all.
May I ask who seconded?
Great.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Was Kyla only out here for introductions?
Yes, Kyla is now watching from the back with Sherry, so
okay.
she's going to learn the ropes back there.
Okay,
It's good for all of staff to know how to do all that electronic equipment. And then, so she's just getting an introduction.
so she's back with James and James.
Actually, it's Sherry. I don't know if the Jameses are still back there.
Yeah, they were having a James meeting earlier, they said. Okay, great. Okay, so then you'll pass that along to the city council. Great, thank you very much. Okay, so the next item is item number 3, and staff report. And in that staff report, I think you have some information that you have found that will help answer some questions that we have and that those sitting in the audience may have
Yeah.
also.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you, Chair and Commissioners. So at the August 10th HPC meeting, the Commission voted to bring back this item, the structures of merit, at the September 14th meeting to allow staff time to look into some questions and statements that were presented at the meeting, and also to allow homeowner or property owners time to evaluate their structures as to the integrity, whether or not they believe they still qualify as a structure of merit. That meeting was continued, and now here we are tonight. So a letter was sent to the property owners notifying them of the meeting tonight. It was sent to them previously for the other meeting, and then another notice saying that the meeting was canceled, and then they got another message for tonight. So some specific questions that were brought up were regarding structures of worship and whether or not they were exempt from being a structure of merit, tax benefits regarding structures of merit utilizing the Historic Building Code, and whether or not property owners were able to opt out. And so I'm going to briefly go through the information that I've gathered since that meeting in August, I guess it was. So regarding structures of worship, religious exemptions from historic preservation laws are not absolute. And this information, by the way, is in your staff report in your packet. Religious organizations, if they believe that they are exempt, they are required to make public a determination that the historic preservation law would impose a substantial burden on them. And so, but our code does not give them the opportunity, does not give anyone the opportunity to opt out. And they're not automatically opted out. They would have to, I guess I'm kind of repeating myself now, but prove that it would be a burden, a substantial burden. So, and that would be on an individual basis. Regarding tax benefits, the only direct tax benefits from historic designations under the California law is the Mills Act, and structures of sites of merit, structures of merit don't qualify or do not qualify for Mills Act. I'm going to read the sentence directly just to make sure that's clear. So regarding tax benefits, the only direct tax benefit from historic designations under California law is the Mills Act. The Mills Act is only available under both the Ojai Municipal Code and state law to designated landmarks and contributing structures to designated historic districts, not sites of merit. The other issue of the Historic Building Code. So pursuant to the 2022 California existing building code, a structure of merit does not qualify to utilize the Historic Building Code, as a historic building is one or more of the following, and those are listed here in your staff report. A listed or certified as eligible for listing by the state Historic Preservation Officer or the keeper of the National Register of Historic Places in the National Register of Historic Places, which is not a structure of merit. A structure or site designated as historic under an applicable state or local law, or a structure or site certified as a contributing resource within a National Register state designated or locally designated historic district. And I underlined this for myself to say tonight, because we do have, for instance, the Taormina District. That's a historic district, it's a locally designated historic district, so that therefore would qualify as opposed to structures of merit. Regarding opting out of being listed as a structure of merit, the Ojai Municipal Code does not provide a way for property owners to have their site removed from a city's list of structures of merit. So within our code, section 4-8.05, sorry to get technical, that is under the Historic Preservation Commission functions and powers. The Historic Preservation Commission or Community Development Director may investigate any structure in the city which the Council or Planning Commission or HPC has reason to believe should be declared an historic landmark, historic district, or structure of merit, or a point of interest. If the conclusion is that this structure of merit meets the criteria that's established, then the HPC would make a recommendation to the City Council in a timely deliberation within 90 days and send a copy of such recommendation to the property owner. Then this list, this property would go to the City Council. Again, it's a twofold process. There's designating the structure at the time of evaluation, which is important, when its integrity is known, as well as identifying or notifying rather the property owner, which in the case of a place of worship would at that time entitle the property owner the opportunity to do their due diligence in identifying whether the designation would impose a substantial burden on them. At this time, the HPC is in the process of evaluating a current list and determining when to move forward with this current list to recommend these structures of merit to the City Council. This list was originally created in 2013. And in the staff report here, which is several pages long, and I've really abbreviated it, staff is recommending that the structures be evaluated as to their current integrity versus relying on a list that was tabled at the request of the City Council 10 years ago, and then moving forward. And so that's what that's what staff has to present to you. And I'm going to turn it over to you for discussion. And I believe that there are several people from the public that wish to have something to say. And of course, if you have questions of me.
Yeah, so I'll open it to questions of Mara.
I have a couple of questions about these items that you just mentioned. In particular, the historic building code, which is very important for owners of historic properties to be able to take advantage of that, to be able to rehabilitate their properties as historic and not have to follow a building code that may not apply to the building that was built in 1890 or something like that. And when this first came up, our structures of merit, we were told by the city attorney at that time that a structure of merit would qualify for use of the historic building code. I also had a conversation with the State Office of Historic Preservation, and they said that any property that's designated as historic on a local level is eligible to use that. And it even says right in your quote, it says under historic building code, it says those qualified are one or more of the following, and number 2 is designated as historic under an applicable state or local law. And that's what we would be doing, is designating these under a local law as historic. And this was
Could be
confirmed with
structures of
me
merit,
by
structures of-
people who work.
It would be a structure of merit versus a designated historic structure.
What's that?
It would be a structure of merit versus a designated historic structure. And so,
No, a historic structure of merit is one of our categories of historic resources and historic structures. So I think before we make that statement, we need to arrange for a meeting to sit down and talk with the city attorney, because I asked to be able to do that and was told I couldn't meet with the city attorney. And I think it's important, because when this is a big issue for people, that they would have that opportunity to be able to use that historic building code. And the same thing is true of the Mills Act. You're correct on the Ojai level for our ordinance. It states that only landmarks are eligible. But when you look at the state law, the local law is derived from the state law. The state law is the Mills Act, and it says that it's available to any qualified property, and a qualified property is any building that's been designated as historic. It doesn't say only landmarks. And in fact, we've talked before about the possibility of having our contributing structures for the downtown historic district be able to take advantage of the Mills Act. And all it would literally take would be for the city of Ojai to change one line in its code to say that they were allowing landmark structures of merit and contributing properties to historic districts to be eligible. So I think we need to have a further conversation about that. It's not so important for tonight, but I think that ultimately it'll make a big difference to people who own these buildings to know that there are these benefits available. And the same is true with the tax credits. We don't grant the tax credits, but in order to get a tax credit from the state or the federal government, you have to be on the state historic district list. You have to be on the state historic list of properties. And in order to get on that, you need to have a letter from your local government agency supporting that. So for the city of Ojai to not designate these properties as historic, which is basically saying they're not historic, and then have them try to take advantage of this tax break, which is huge. If you want to rehabilitate your historic property, you can, between the federal and the state, you can get up to 45% tax credit for your rehabilitation expenses, which is huge. And so I think it's important that we have a meeting and we talk about it and we come to an understanding, because that's not what I'm getting from the people connected with it.
so I think a meeting is, in the future, we'll put that on an agenda and have that meeting. In the meantime, what's before you has been provided to me by the City of Ojai building official and also our city attorney, so.
So, other people with questions for Maura? I have a few. So, Maura, you referenced, I think you referenced section 4-8.05, Historic Preservation Commission, when you were talking.
Okay. Probably,
in your
tell
note.
me what section you're on exactly so I
I'm
can
on-
follow you.
The Historic Preservation Commission functions and powers. I thought you mentioned that 4-8.05 in your comments.
Yeah, I would just wanted to go back to exactly what you were talking about in the staff report. Okay, so I'm sorry, so what is your question?
I went through all of these in detail over today and the last couple days. And I'm not sure how this section gives direction on a historic or on structures of merit. It's interesting in here, I was looking through, the big question is, to me, I have been told that the HPC must designate structures of merit, as though that's somewhere in the code. And I didn't find that in the code. Interesting enough, in section 4-8.13, structures of merit and points of historic interest, it says structures of merit, the Historic Preservation Commission may recommend to council individual structures of historic, architectural, community aesthetic. In the next paragraph, it's talking about demolition, alteration. In that one, it uses the word shall, but that's only the building official presenting something to the HPC. Later in paragraph 4, talks about possible forwarding. So again, we have may, shall, possible. I didn't see anything that was absolute as to our having to do this. Again, I go back to the Historic Preservation Commission may recommend to council individual structures of historic, architectural, community aesthetic merit. So this is something that we are choosing to do rather than being mandated to do.
So,
This is a question to staff.
so you're reading exactly what I read in our code, in our City of Ojai Municipal Code, and 4-8.05 states that the HPC or the director may investigate any structure in the city which the council or planning in which the council has reason to believe should be declared yes, you're correct. And the only time that there's a shall is where I don't have the entire code in front of me. I think you may have something that I don't have in front of me, but shall is when you can't demo a building. That's what you're looking at, and
Yes.
it brings up the building official.
Yes, before any permit is issued by the building official for demolition or alteration of a structure designated by council as a structure of merit, the permit application to the building official shall be
Shall.
forwarded to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Exactly, and that's when there's a demolition permit. That's correct.
Yes. Sorry, so much. Okay. The other question I had too was, before any permit is issued by the building official for demolition or alteration, that's a pretty broad word, alteration. Do we have any definition or guidance on that?
Is that in my staff report, or are you pulling that from the code?
This is 4-18.13. This is number A2.
Okay, so I just wanted to know if I could look at it in my staff report. So it's not. It's something you brought from the code to our meeting, correct? That's
Yeah, I
fine,
printed
that's fine.
out, I essentially printed out section 4, and then any of the sections within 4 that talked about the structures of merit.
Okay, so I would have to have that in front of me and read it thoroughly in order to answer that question, and maybe even talk to the director and the building official. But so it's not part of my
that
staff
was the
report,
one
it's
that
not here.
stood out when we're talking about alteration.
It's probably in the definitions.
I did not see it in.
Have
the
you read the
definition.
definitions?
Yeah, I have it right here in this book. I went through each of them and highlighted them today. Okay, so for you folks that are out there wondering what's going on, we're just trying to make sure that we're all on the same page going forward. And so this is beneficial, I believe, to all of us who are here tonight.
I think since it's not in every, I mean, I know it's in the municipal code, which is a public document, but it's, what you're reading is not in everybody's staff report or available, like, I mean, it's available to the public online, but it's not part of tonight's packet. Not that it's not appropriate, I just don't even know how to respond to it at the moment. About alterations and demolitions and
Yeah,
things like that.
it was
Going a little further.
kind of a generic question because, so is alterations in the definitions? I'll look in a moment.
And so the question that came up at the last meeting that when we discussed this was whether or not someone could opt out. And what, could someone opt out and could they use the historic building code where their tax benefits and structures of worship, were they exempt? So those were the 4 items that needed to be, that were highlighted and needed to be responded to.
Okay. So there is nothing in the code that I saw, again, going through the different pages, that prevents opting out or prevents us from allowing somebody to opt out.
There is not an opportunity for anyone to opt out. If the director or the commission thinks that a property is appropriately on list of structures of merit and it meets the qualifications for being on that structure of merit list or sites of merit list, and then it goes forward to the city council in a timely manner and gets adopted, then voila, it is on a list of structures of merit. And until then, it is not. But so they can't opt out, and you can make this list. As you highlighted, and it says here in the staff report in section, well, I don't know what section it is, but it says that you may do this. It doesn't say you have to go out and look for structures of merit. It says that you may do that.
Okay.
And the question last time was, can someone opt out? And the commission's response was, well, I think we responded that, no, you can't, and then someone else said, a member of the public said, well, my home is no longer has the integrity. And then so the commission said, well, you need to prove that to us. And what I'm recommending, and I think what the code is saying, is that the list needs to be a current list. So the commission, or whoever's recommending that structure be on this list, should know if today that it has the integrity to either still be on the list or should be on the list, should be put on the list. It shouldn't be up to the, well, the code says it, and I was also recommending that it not be up to the public to come and prove to you. You should already know whether it should be on that list or not by having investigated it currently.
So would the city be prepared to pay for an update to the survey that we did back in 2011 that were the ones that named these properties as being eligible?
I'm not sure, but all I do know is that the list is 10 years old. But that would be something that we would discuss and then take to council.
Yeah.
Okay, so we met in July, and now we're meeting again in November. So, and you notified people, they get this notice, they come, they show up, and if it's not one of these 4 things, we can't discuss it until it gets put on another meeting, which they'll be notified again, they'll show up again. Is there an informal sort of situation where the commission can hash out this so we have questions, so we understand that we're having conversations that don't have to wait a month in between and notifications that go out again, when that could have been something that if we were in conversation with one another in some sort of a workshop that was specific for this, that the public was invited to, where we can sit there and say, okay, just, and we're trying to help. We're trying to help not only protect structures that have significance to the city, but to not be a burden to any homeowner as well. And if there's a situation where we can stop this from just being this formal thing where now we have to wait, we have a new question, so now we have to wait. It doesn't seem very productive. I know this is unusual that not having a quorum from July to November, but even every month, it just doesn't seem, it seems like there's questions that need to be worked out in an informal way in between a meeting. Can we do some sort of a workshop where we kind of come up with, we are talking with the city attorney, we're talking with the Sherpa office, we're getting the answers that we need, then we bring it to the meeting with all of the questions that we have, all the questions that they have, so we can then have an actual conversation instead of everything being so fragmented and having to wait again to get, we have new questions, we have to wait again. Is there a way?
Well, the commission, I mean, the commission can talk about having a special meeting or having an agendized meeting that's just about structures of merit. And there can be, and we can talk about getting also the city attorney here that's already been approved by the council to have that discussion that was about CEQA, actually. CEQA regarding historic preservation. I want to go back a second. Now, the reason, like you say, something couldn't be discussed, I don't have the code in front of me.
Right.
And tonight we're talking specifically about structures of merit and the questions that were asked at the last meeting. And I'm prepared to talk about those things. I'm not prepared to talk about the whole code, even regarding structures of merit.
Absolutely. There's no way you're going to know every question that we're going
Right.
to have.
And this isn't meant to be critical at all, but instead of at the end of the meeting, I'll say it now. I've told our new commissioner, Sims, to please contact me if there are any questions before a meeting. If there's ever anything on the agenda that any of you, I've said this so many times, that if there's anything on the agenda, so we can talk about it before we get here.
But that's the problem is you don't know the question until we're in this body.
Right, well,
And then you have to wait another month. That's why I was just trying to think if there was some, and I'm sure that they don't want to keep coming out, and you don't want to have to keep, it takes work, money to notify them every time and then having to come back out. It just seems like there could be a more efficient way of doing this.
I would tell you that it's not a complete vacuum because Mara and I have been talking about this since our August meeting, since our last meeting. Some of the questions that have come up. I have that, I did what she's saying anybody else could do is to call her and talk to her. So she and I have been talking. We have been trying. That's why I kind of knew what our staff report was that was coming.
I would just like to
what
use
questions were there.
use our brain trust, use their brain trust to come up with questions that can make it so this goes forward successfully with everybody on the same page instead of waiting another meeting. So I don't know. I don't know if a workshop would work or not, but I was just wondering if there was a way to get our heads together and come up with the questions prior to having to wait another month. Because if we meet again next month and then it's like, well, what about this? Well, I don't have that in front of me. Well, let me notify. It's just, it could go on indefinitely.
Again, it could. I mean, we've been hampered. Again, we haven't been able to meet at all since August meeting. It's been very, very frustrating. And you can see it coming out because, again, we would have had, rather than waiting these 3 months, we would have met, we would have asked these questions. When I've talked to the city council, I have explained to them that there are rumors going around. I hope to nip one of those in the bud in just a minute, and we're just unable to counter or to answer those rumors because we haven't been able to meet. But again, Mara has been working to find answers, and what we're trying to do, I think even if we held this, and I think that is a fabulous idea, I think the folks that are here that are the parcel owners would still need to be invited to that meeting too.
Yeah.
So
If not
just so you
month
know,
after month.
you're on the list. We're doing that because we're trying to not only get answers for ourselves, but get answers with yourselves. And public comments will be coming up soon. These second item is asking questions of staff. Craig, did you have another question?
Well, I've done
Mara?
some, no, I don't have questions.
Okay,
I
well,
just
we
have
can-
kind of done a little report on the history.
We'll talk about that in discussions,
Okay.
okay? So,
It might help the public, though, to hear the story of how it,
we'll talk about that in discussions. I agree. Mara, are we done with the staff report and question sections then? Okay, at this time, then we'll open it to public comments. And I'd like to ask Reverend James Vocal. Oh, I'm gonna work on my accent. If you would just come to the microphone, just, if you don't mind, state who you are and what parcel you're here
Reverend
representing.
James Worrell. I'm the rector of the Church of Our Lady and All Angels Liberal Catholic Church in Ojai. Well, thank you very much, Guru.
Welcome.
So our church board is very upset about being designated as a structure of merit. And we met and discussed it quite a bit. But we recently just discovered an article that was published in 2000 in the LA Times reporting on a decision made by the California Supreme Court, which said that the state high court upheld a state law that permits religious organizations to declare their non-commercial buildings exempt from city and county preservation laws. Such buildings would include not only churches, but also housing, schools, hospitals, gymnasiums, and other structures used for religious or charitable purposes. And so based on that, I think we are opting out of the structures of merit. We don't want to be included, and we don't think you have the right to require us to do so. So that's our position right now. I sent a letter to this effect by email to Maura this morning, and yeah, I'll give you a copy. And I'd written to you previously also in August. In August, I was reporting that our building has substantially changed since it was built. John Royan, the architect, designed it, but our members built it themselves in around 1920 in Miners Oak, and then it was moved to its current location in the 1940s. After it was moved, a kitchen was added, 2 interior restrooms were added, a drop ceiling was installed, a window was removed, and double doors installed. So it's changed quite a bit from its original configuration. But anyway, being that as it may, I still think that we don't wish to be included as a structure of merit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for showing up today. Mara, you had an update to us talking about the religious exemption. Is that something that we should bring up?
she already
in
did that.
Discussion items?
She already talked about that.
You think that was that an LA Times article that you forwarded to us? I have it here, but I don't know where it was originally referenced.
What are you talking about that was forwarded to you?
The article that's in our package. So we have an article that's in our package that
I
talks
don't
about.
have that article.
It's in the package, I think. Is it in the package?
No.
Or did I get it independently?
You must have received it independently.
Okay, I apologize.
So, however, at the last HPC meeting, when we discussed structures of merit, I was handed articles from from members of the public, and they were forwarded along with my questions to the city attorney, and which again is where my information came from that is in your packet tonight and which I have already provided to you.
Okay, okay, great. Sorry for referencing.
And I think people should understand that interior alterations don't apply. It's only to the exterior. So if you've dropped your ceiling and you've added rooms inside, none of that is affected and none of that has to be reviewed. It's only exterior.
It's absolutely contradictory to what it says in the ordinance.
We'll get more public comment in a moment. Okay. Next, we'll bring up Elena Doval Santos. I'm just going on the order that the cards were handed to me. I don't usually get cards. Nobody usually shows up, so we're happy to have you here. Yes, Elena.
Just so the members of the public know, I have a timer here, and everyone has 3 minutes to speak, and so when the obnoxious noise goes off, I apologize, but that means that your time is up.
Great. Thank you, Mara. Elena.
Sure. Hello, greetings to the committee members and to all present. I represent the Crotona Institute of Theosophy. So we would like to say it is an honor to be thought of as a structure of merit. However, we believe that it will pose a significant hardship for us. Similar to the case of Jim Verrall for the Liberal Catholic Church, we are a nonprofit organization, charitable, religious, educational organization that falls under the same ruling of the Supreme Court in 2000, California Supreme Court. Crotona has about 30 structures on our grounds, all of which are 50 to 100 years old. It would pose a significant burden for us to maintain all of those in historical condition. Even to prove or dispute whether they're historical or not would force us to hire an architectural historian for thousands of dollars for each unit, just to be able to say whether they are historical or not. As time goes on, these structures, which are 50 to 100 years old, will become more and more expensive to maintain. What will happen when we can no longer afford those costs? We feel that the Crotona Institute qualifies for the exemption. We invoke the exemption due to the hardship that it will entail. The exemption will allow us to better maintain our center as a whole and deliver on our organizational mission. I submitted a document for the review. There are several questions that I included there that I hope the committee would consider, which might help even other organizations to be able to comply with the requirements of a structure of merit. I don't have much time to go through all of them, but I hope you would look into them, because the solutions to those concerns, I feel, would help everybody, the city, as well as those who are on the list. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the letter. It's dated November 7th, 2023. I think it was in our packet.
I think that was
Oh,
forwarded, I think Sherry forwarded that to everyone.
Oh, she forwarded via the email?
Yeah.
Okay, so
And she also put it
that's okay
on
to
our
talk
website.
about.
It's on the website and in your email.
Great. So, Elena, thank you very much for the letter you wrote, and very good questions. Thank you. I look forward to asking them and seeing if we can come up with some answers. Okay, next up is Luann Wallert. Wallert.
Fine Belgian name.
Sorry, I'm Irish.
A fine Irish
My wife's
name.
German, so I'll check with her.
So I live at 922 Grand. Now I'm very weirded out by the fact that you two went stalking my house.
Actually, I didn't go by your house because I've
Good answer.
ridden
What
my,
about you?
ridden
Just
my
on the
bike by it
street.
so many times in the past.
I just
love
want
your
to
house.
say, I know I said all this stuff last time. Only half my house is historic because the other half was built in the 80s. I don't think I qualify. Not only that, I'm not super down with the idea that a little board of people that don't have any personal relationship with me feel they have the authority to dictate what happens with my property that I pay taxes on and I pay the mortgage on and all the utilities and have to try and maintain. Not to mention the fact that you're trying to pull this stuff down on me, but where were you guys when my neighbor didn't follow the city's instructions to trim their tree which fell on my house? Seems like a little unbalance there. You're looking out for your best interest so you can have this big structure and merit list. We did this, but you're not looking out for the safety of myself, my cohabitants, or my property by not following through with all the other stuff. I just think that's kind of wrong. Sorry. I also think it's kind of wrong that everybody's feeling this way. And I also feel it's kind of wrong that, like, nobody wants the Mills Act either. Why don't we have a choice in what you're doing? Why is it that you guys get to decide what happens to us? And you, sir, no offense, but you sounded extremely condescending with that last statement. I'm not happy about this. I'm not happy about this. And it seems the majority of the people here are not happy about this. I have zero intention of burning my building down, moving it to another city, damaging it anyway. So why do I have to have a thing where you guys tell me that my property is a structure of merit and then I have to pay to have a stupid plaque put up if I decide to have a plaque put up? Do you live in a structure of merit? Is your house on the list?
No.
No. Yours?
I've had one.
Okay, and there was a blonde lady here last time that I recall straight up said she wanted this to go through because it would increase the property values around the structures of merit. Why do we want to increase property values? Isn't everything expensive enough? I mean, Sousa? That's all I have to say. Don't like the thing. Think it's not very cool. And I think if you listen to the people that lived here that are in this building that are dealing with this, probably the majority of them would agree with me over you. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Loanne. Just so you know, I've been on the commission for 9 years. And at the first meeting I came to, September 11th, 2014, I looked it up and I finally tried out the Wayback Machine. I never tried that before. It actually had our September 11th, 2014 meeting in there. And at that meeting, guess what was brought up? Structures of merit by Mr. Walker and by, rest in peace, Terry Hill. So
I don't understand your point there, sir.
just giving you background that we didn't just start this. We are working, as I said earlier, we are working to understand it and working to address it.
Yes, but from what I heard earlier, and I know my time's up, and I'm very sorry about that, she already said that we don't get a choice to opt out. That's my issue, is that we don't get a choice.
There is nothing in the code as it exists now, we didn't write the code, that allows for a commission or a council, once a decision is made by the commission and recommended to the council, to individually opt out. So that is a question that we have and one that we're looking to talk with the city attorney about in getting a meeting together.
Wouldn't you think that if you just approach
We need this conversation to be on a microphone.
if I wanted to do it and work with the city to do my stuff, it would be a different story than you sending me a letter saying this is what's going down.
Loanne, I need to move on, but I hear just what you're saying.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Fine Irishman.
Okay, so, thank you. This is all recorded too.
I didn't swear once.
It'll still be in the Wayback Machine 9 years from now. Okay, Kate McDuffie, please. I'd never tried it with the Wayback Machine before. It works. Hello, Kate, welcome.
Hello,
And could you tell us your name and also what property you're
I'm Kate
here with?
McDuffie, and I'm here on behalf of Loanne. I'm the owner of 922 Grand. And I just wanted to say that I do support the work that you're doing. I think historic preservation is very important. But I'd like to point out a few things in the ordinance. I spent a considerable amount of time since the last meeting going through the 21 pages with a fine-tooth comb. And there's some concerns that I'd like to mention. First of all, Loanne's house, it was totally remodeled in 1980. Additions were added, the whole back half is brand new. I don't see how that qualifies the property, even though it was built by Frank Ayers, and the front of it was beautiful before the tree fell on and totally collapsed the porch. That being said, in the ordinance, it says that the purpose of the structure of merit list is to recognize and encourage the protection, enhancement, perpetuation, and use of such structures. Why should a governing body tell a property owner who purchased their home in 1994, I believe, isn't that correct? 2009, I'm so sorry, but still, how they can use the property? That doesn't make any sense to me. They purchased this property before it was declared a structure of merit and probably would not have purchased it knowing that it is. The thought of having someone put a plaque up and print maps and brochures and do social media to promote, the economic development of Ojai and bring tourism in is wonderful, except who wants someone following a map to their home and peeking over the fence to look at this historic house when they're trying to garden on a Saturday morning in their underwear or whatever, Not saying that you would do that, but I'm just saying, my mother would do that. And, well, it's private property. And the reality is that this feels like it's in violation of people's privacy. The ordinance does state that the exterior and interior have to go through approval processes for paint color, light fixtures, doors, windows, you name it. And when something needs updating, I can speak from experience working for Loanne at a historic property, a registered site in Ventura. It is astronomically expensive to maintain historic properties. It is time-consuming to go through the permitting process. The detail and attention to the work that has to be done to maintain is insane. And the types of problems that you incur, you couldn't even imagine. So I know I've gone over, but there are a lot of things in here that you really should take a look at and read through it. The alterations that you asked about is in the definitions.
It is, right there.
It is.
Yes.
And I
Right
would
here. Thank
highly recommend that you read through that because it's alarming. So,
Great. Thank
thank
you.
you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Lots of time spent on this. Okay, thank you. Next, Katrina Rice-Schmidt. You're not, well, I've heard your name multiple times, so, yes.
Before my time starts, I just wanted to point out that this memo here, that went out to the property owners, that's basically what the ordinance says. And bullet point 2 is A2. So if you were talking about demolition or alteration, it's actually here, it was in the packet.
Yes, I'm
And
sorry.
that's the ordinance.
I apologize. It is there as Commissioner Walker said, section 4-8.04. It is the first item that's actually defined in that. I have been through this and several other entities that I volunteer for have drugged me in all different directions. So the fact that I forgot that there's an alteration is due to lack of sleep and lack of focus. But you are absolutely correct. It is right
Okay.
there.
Well, I just-
And Mara, when she put that letter together, quoted the code exactly in sending out that notice to the parcel owners. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good evening. My name is Katrina Rice-Schmidt. I'm the Director of Campus Planning and Facilities Projects for Ojai Valley School. And by the way, I am a card-carrying member of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. It's near and dear to my heart. Ojai Valley School is very proud to have the English Revival style Frost Hall designed by master architect Wallace Neff on our campus. It is our signature building on campus. It's, you know, it defines our campus on the quad. It's very understandable that the Historic Preservation Commission would want to review and comment about any type of demolition or alteration, and that process is basically already in place without this ordinance for all discretionary projects. So any alteration for our zoning district, we do an alteration, it's a discretionary project, and the review by the Historic Preservation Commission would be guaranteed. So that process is already in place, per CEQA review. The school does have an issue with involving the Community Development Director and the HPC for repairs on projects that are typically ministerial in nature. The Structures of Merit Ordinance requires review by the Community Development Director and or the Planning Commission for any permit. It says it right in the ordinance, any permit. Doesn't say interior, doesn't say exterior, it says any permit. This is an excessive amount of review for projects such as electrical, plumbing, HVAC, repairing dry rot, changing out a water heater, etc., all which are normally reviewed and approved via a simple zoning clearance and by the building official. A school such as OVS is a 24/7 operation on a 100-year-old campus. We realize it's historic, it's old, it's 100 years old. There are constant maintenance and repairs taking place. It's a complete time sink when permits or repairs have to be routed for comment, especially since these types of permits do not include alterations to the buildings, which would be understandable. If we altered the building, yes, come to HPC. But HPC meets once a month, and the school would have to wait that time to get approval for a permit for a repair. Repairs typically must be done immediately, and the existing ministerial permitting process is satisfactory for these types of repairs. For this reason, Ojai Valley School is requesting to be removed from the proposed structure of merit list that will be forwarded to City Council. Thank you.
Katrina, on the part where you were talking about the permit, do you know what section that was?
The permit, yeah, it's section 4.8.13A4.
Okay.
And I'll read it. Before any permit is issued for a repair of a structure of merit, the application shall be forwarded to the Community Development Director for review and comment, with possible forwarding at the director's discretion to the Historic Preservation Commission for review and comment. That's ordinance 4-813A2.
Yep. It's that shell paragraph. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Mark Will. Hello, Mark.
Hi, you all. I'm Mark Weil.
Wow, sorry.
I think it's 601 Pope Lane that's on there. Just, I feel like we have enough oversight in going for building permits if we're going to make any changes, that there's plenty of review with building and planning commission. And I just don't know that we really need to be a part of another level of review. We don't have any plans to alter the building or anything. It's serving our purpose really well, but just if we did want to, it would seem like a kind of a long process if we had another layer of review to go through. But we do appreciate you guys serving and everybody doing a great job, and I do think it's valuable what you all do. And in this case, we are a school, and we do charitable events out of our school. If that, I don't know if the Supreme Court was actually referring to us, but I'm kidding.
What is the, what is the location?
What's that?
What's the location that you're talking about?
601
Is
Pope
it
Lane?
the tennis academy?
Huh?
Is this the tennis academy?
Say it again?
Is this the
Yes.
tennis academy?
Yes,
It's
the tennis academy. I'm sorry.
House right
The
above
Fox House.
It's a
The
girls'
Fox House.
dormitory.
I would just like to say I was on the commission when your project went through to expand off of that building and
Yeah. Yeah.
create the dormitory. And you guys just did a wonderful job taking that old building with the mansard roof, and one of the few in Ventura County. There's only 2 that have that Victorian design.
Yeah.
But you were able to incorporate it, and it's a wonderful example of alternate use of a historic property where
Thanks.
we preserve that, but we also have a new use for it.
Yeah. And I'm from New Orleans originally, and I love old homes, and that city has some old structures that have been kept intact, and I really love that. And so we have no intention of altering the look, or I love the way it looks. So, but I'm just saying again, if we did, I think what you all are doing is going on the right track. Craig, you used up some of my time talking.
I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. I just want to put that in the notes.
I'm going to give you extra, you get extra time.
So, just real quick. No, I'm kidding. I don't need more time. I lost my train of thought. But
Sorry.
we would I just think maybe what you all are getting at about clarifying what that means, alterations, interior, exterior. If we had to replace a window that was broken, we would love to know what we would have to do for those kind of smaller, like Katrina was saying, repairs and things like that. It doesn't seem like that would make
Well,
sense.
I think when you did your property, there was no review of the inside of it. It
No.
was all
we went
just
through the planning commission and through the city council, and we went through extensive studies and again, okay.
go.
That's it. Thank you all very much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And going to section 4-8.04, alteration means any act or process that changes one or more of the exterior or interior character defining elements of a structure, including but not limited to the erection, construction, reconstruction, or removal of any structure. Keyword that may not mean much is talking about character defining elements of a structure.
Right, but it always applies to the outside. We've never, even on our landmarks like the Ojai Theater, we've dealt with the exterior look of the building, but we have no say over what the theater owner is doing inside. We don't even go inside, and we wouldn't know what he was doing.
Well, we'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, any other public comments? Anybody that wants to speak that didn't fill out a card? Hands raised. Can't read your mind. Okay, well, thank you very much. So we'll close public comments at this time. I will just say that we do have landmarks that have designated interior characteristics as character defining elements for the historic nature of the house. So, but
Yes,
it may be
if
one.
they're called out, that's right.
Yeah. I can only think of one at this time. So, and if you saw the interior character defining element, you'd know why. Okay, so let me open it for discussion.
I have a comment.
Chair,
Yeah,
there's a commissioner who has a comment.
yeah, I'm just trying to status myself before I go there on what path to go forward. So, yes.
Okay, so we live in a very unique town. Just looking on this list, we have Wallace Neff, Mead Enriqua, Eric Lloyd Wright, Richard Neutra, Carlton Winslow. I mean, it's an amazing list, and it's kind of we wouldn't be doing our job if we weren't letting the city know, hey, there's these things in town. They're not landmarks, but it's an important list to know these resources, that they're just amazing that we have them. What I imagined, and I could be wrong, but I imagine this list being very different than a district or a landmark, where it's more just like a speed bump. Like you have this home or building that for some reason it has a historic value, whether it's from the architect or whether something happened at the location that made it historic, or and that we just want the city to know that it has a value to it, to the history of our town. So if there was going to be a destruction to the building, a demolition or a complete alteration to the front of it or line of sight from the street, it would be a speed bump to say, okay, can we talk first? We don't have the power to stop it, as especially this body, but we do have just kind of a let you know, well, that's a Eric Lloyd Wright, or that's this, and can we talk about it? Can we look at what is going on? Can we maybe suggest something? It doesn't mean that anyone's going to listen to us, but that's what I thought it was. That is, to me, what a structures of merit is. It's just everyone take a breath before it goes away, because once it's gone, it's gone. And that's what I'd like to work towards, is something that it's a comprehensive list that grows as buildings in town get older, and we just let people know that it's significant in a way, but not stopping somebody from living their life and changing their water heater and doing their electrical. It's just putting a speed bump there if something was to drastically alter the front or line of sight or a demolition. That's how I feel.
Yes, Craig.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
I took some time to prepare some comments because I'm probably one of the only ones on the commission. Maybe Rick was here when we first discussed this. So there's a whole history behind it that maybe people aren't aware of. So it might be interesting for people to know that and what the intent is. A structure of merit is a general category for individual historic properties that have not been designated as a landmark or part of a historic district. They have, however, undergone an independent review and were found to be historic resources worthy of recognition, and further review should demolition or a significant exterior remodel be proposed. Although structures of merit are local historic resources, cities and counties are required to identify them by state law and consider their value to the community when making planning decisions. So the state, through CEQA, expects local cities and counties to create inventories of their historic properties. And indeed, they all do. If you look at the historic preservation code in Ventura and Santa Barbara, in Ventura County, Santa Barbara County, you'll find the very same thing. They all have an inventory or a list of resources that they're named as not designated a landmark, but of importance enough that they want them to be reviewed a little closer if it appears before them that this is going to be demolished. And so that's really what the city is trying to do here. A structure of merit designation requires really nothing more of the owner except that they keep the property from deteriorating. It says demolition by neglect. So all that is referring to is making sure that the owner of the property does a very basic maintenance to keep it from deteriorating. And that you'll find that term used in there. The Historic Preservation Commission only reviews the property if a developer proposes demolition or a significant remodel of a building's exterior. There's no burden really at all unless the owner proposes demolition or significant alteration. Even then, the law states the historic review will be expedited, and it states in the law that once your application is complete, it will go to the next Historic Preservation Commission meeting and be reviewed at that time. And there was no fee for the owner for that process, so there's no fee associated with it that can be a burden on the owner. What if a future developer bought the Ojai Arts Center or the Bill Baker Building, now the Duchess, or the Porch Gallery, and proposed demolishing them? Wouldn't we want that to be reviewed and allow public input? Both the City of Ojai and the State of California have mandated that historic properties threatened with demolition or alteration be reviewed. Ventura, Santa Barbara, Ventura County, and Santa Barbara County all keep a register or inventory of their historic resources. Why shouldn't we? A review A review doesn't mean the property cannot ultimately be demolished or remodeled. 2 examples. The Ojai Olive Mill on Bald Street was reviewed and found to have lost its historic value. Demolition was approved. The El Roblar Hotel, which we've all watched as it's being remodeled, and it is actually on the California Register of Historic Resources, and it's being extensively remodeled. Each property is treated individually and fairly. With new state housing mandates coming from Sacramento, SB 35, SB 330, and more, Ojai will increasingly lose its ability to make its own land use decisions. Exceptions to these housing mandates are given for properties designated as historic resources. All the advice I'm reading is that now is the time for local agencies like cities to designate their historic buildings and districts. If we fail to do so, the city has only 30 days to make a designation, and that's not enough time. That's why it is essential that we update our register as soon as possible. This doesn't mean that historic resources can't be used for low-income housing, however. Far from it. State laws encourage the repurposing of historic resources for affordable housing projects. It's a natural fit. In fact, the state gives an extra 5% on its tax credit if the historic property is used for low-income housing. Not that it has to be. The HPC's job, as defined in the city general plan and municipal code, is to identify historic resources within the city and recommend them for inclusion in the city register. The city register includes a range of designations: landmarks, which is our top level of historic designation. That's like our post office, arcade, the Ojai Playhouse, and 28 buildings in the city of Ojai. We also have a historic district like Taormina, where the properties within it contribute to the historic district. And we're looking at the historic district for downtown Ojai. There's also structures of merit and points of historical interest. The HPC has been doing its job for over 40 years, following a process approved by the City Council. The result has been 30 landmarks, 1 historic district, and a town that continues to reflect its history after 150 years of growth and development. We have all benefited from the efforts of those who came before us. Historic preservation is not about the past, it's about the future. Today, our task is to make sure the beauty and character of Ojai continue for those that follow us. The properties submitted for inclusion tonight were not arbitrarily chosen or merely based on the opinion of the commissioners that sit up here. A careful, lengthy, independent process approved by the City Council has been followed. First, a comprehensive survey was undertaken by San Buenaventura Research Associates in 2011. 2,972 parcels were reviewed. Out of those, 302 were placed in Category 1, which meant that in the evaluation of it, it was found to have enough historic significance and enough integrity to be considered for this designation. In 2012, the HPC was asked by the council to study these further, to narrow the list down to priority sites. Even though the council did not formally adopt the recommendation of the consultant, the HPC was told that under CEQA, city planners had to use the survey anyway because it documented these 302 properties as historic resources. And CEQA mandates that the city then review those properties. And some of you, like Mr. Weil and the Ojai Valley School, I was on the commission at that time, and there was no structures of merit listed, but the city referred to that survey and they saw that your property was on it, and they made you fill out a historic report, and they went through that process. The HPC during that time regularly received historic reports to review for proposed demolitions and remodels. Recently, however, the planning department changed that policy, claiming the list had to be formally approved by the council, which really isn't true. I've been in conversation with people at the state, and the survey is enough to qualify the property for a historic review, but the city planners that we have want that list to be approved by the city council. So that's what's led to this process. Section 150645 of CEQA states that, quote, properties found to be significant in a survey that follows accepted standards are presumed to be historic resources for the purposes of CEQA. According to the law, there should actually be 463 structures of merit. The HPC, however, has been following the council's direction from 2013 to study them further and prioritize them, to give them smaller amounts in a priority. The first set of priority sites that we are submitting tonight were identified from that survey in 2013 by a team of local historians and members of the HPC. They have yet to be ratified. In fact, I don't think we even knew they had to be ratified by the city council until just recently. So that's what's got this move going, to take the structures of merit designation, which matches what CEQA wants, which is that you have enough integrity and you have enough significance to warrant a second look if something comes before the city. But there are more that need to be reviewed and included. We just were told that 28, the state, all on its own without us having any involvement, told us that 28 properties in the downtown core are now on the state register of historic places because they've designated that a historic district. So those should go on our list too at some point. But it's not just the state. The general plan also, which is the city's constitution, basically, is your general plan. It's the foundation for the municipal code and all the activities of the city. The City of Ojai General Plan mandates an inventory of identified historic resources. Quote, the city shall attempt to preserve all historic building resources designated by the City Council and shall strive to identify and preserve potential historic resources. Again, quote, the city shall prepare and maintain a historic resources inventory that identifies and evaluates historic resources in the city. This is what the Structures of Merit is about, creating a historic resource inventory that identifies known historic resources. And we know they're known because we had the city commission, an independent historical consultant to come in and do a survey and identify those buildings. Every one of the properties in this list has been documented. Again, our job as a commission is to identify the historic resources in the city and recommend them to the council for placement on the register. This is the intention of the California Environmental Quality Act and the city's general plan, and the direction of the council. This was direction we've received from the council to proceed with this. At our joint meeting with the council earlier this year, they voted unanimously, 5-0, for us to forward the structures of merit list to them for their consideration. That is what we're doing. That's all we do, is we follow the direction of the council. We don't just make this stuff up ourselves. Now it's up to the council to approve that list. Note, the list isn't only about requirements. Just being on the list inspired some of those on the original list to step forward and landmark their properties. The Smith-Hobson estate, where we are right now, the Fairburn estate, Westways, down down the street, excuse me, the Perkins Baker House, the Ojai Playhouse, Twice Sold Tales, all have been taken off the structures of merit list, and they've been added to the landmark list, our list of landmarks, because the owners were inspired not only by the honor of owning a landmark, but also by the many benefits that they get from that. So so what are the consequences of not approving the list? You might say, well, why don't we just put it off? Maybe it's optional that we have this list. Failure to approve placement of our historic resources on the city's register is the same as the city declaring them not to be historic. First of all, that would not be true. We know they're historic. But using a process approved by the council, they were all found to be historic resources or potential historic resources. Second, by not approving them, the city is effectively saying that they're not historic. This means they can be demolished or remodeled without any further review or public discussion. So in the case of Ojai Valley School, when they were remodeling their founders shop, that came to us because somebody saw that it was on that survey list and sent that to us to review. And as a result of that review, I feel that they came up with a beautiful example of a remodel of a building that now continues on but captures some of the flavor of what it was. So if nowadays, though, if it's not designated, if it's not approved by the council, the planners don't send us those. We don't get those historic reports because in their view, if it's not on a list that hasn't been approved by the council, it's not historic and it doesn't have to be reviewed. So that's a big important thing. At our last meeting, our decision was to delay our motion to forward these to the council for 1 month to give property owners a chance to file a formal objection. And if the city attorney tells us that religious organizations are exempt, well, so be it. You know, there's nothing that, you know, we don't want to stand in the way of the law. We're here to enforce the law. So if that is the law, but we're open to people saying, like the Amestoy House in Upper Ojai, it was one of the county's most historic buildings, and it was destroyed in the Thomas Fire. Well, obviously that would be taken off anybody's list because it's no longer around, or buildings destroyed in floods, or there might have been a building that the city allowed to be, but the city hasn't come to us. We haven't gotten any report from the city that says, well, look at these properties, they have been changed. We haven't gotten any of that either. So I really feel we need to send our recommendation to the council as decided by the commission in August and let them do their job in deciding to approve or not this list. Thank you.
Gina?
What I said earlier, is that accurate, though? It's the front of the building.
Did the what?
It's the front structure. It's the integrity of the front of the building or line of sight. That's what we're concerned about, correct?
Well,
Thank
no,
you,
it's the exterior of the building.
That's what I'm saying, the exterior of
Yeah.
the building.
It's only the exterior
Okay,
of
so
the
the
building.
exterior of the building and
The only time that it's not the exterior is if somebody landmarks their property and they say, well, we've got this beautiful staircase inside that we would like to have landmarked. And so if that object is listed, as Brian said, if it's listed in the character defining objects,
I'm
then,
just trying to, it is a speed bump, right? This is a list of the resources.
it's a time to take a breath and to analyze it and to say,
So if that's true, and if it is for demo and for exterior, but in the code, it's written so it puts fear into these homeowners, that makes them read the code in a way that could be right or wrong, that says that they're worried that changing a water heater or anything, or having it be an expense to do all those little buildings in that one.
Right.
School. Is there in order for it to be fair and equitable and have this list go forward, but have people feel comfortable that we're not trying to put anything onto them.
well, that's what I'm trying to express.
Right, but that's what you're expressing. But when you read it, they're getting a different interpretation. And this body might be a different body in a few years from now when they want to do something. So is there a way to simplify the code just for the structures of merit that puts the homeowners at ease, that really specifies that it is exterior and for demolition, and it's a list that we've created to have everybody step back, take a breath, and have it have a review?
Right.
Is there a way to change that with the city attorney to?
Well,
to
I would
make it
also
so
like
not
to
so-
point out, as far as the churches go, that the Catholic chapel up on Main Street, it was, in 1996, it was surplus by the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. And how sad that would be if the Archdiocese had just demolished it. But what they did is they started a conversation with the city, and the city actually agreed to step in and purchase the church and to put $300,000 into it, which was a lot more money in 1996, to restore the building and then to use it for the Ojai Valley Museum. So, like you say, the fact that we had this opportunity to discuss it led to the saving of the building, the purchase of the building by the city, and having it there for us to enjoy.
I'd like to hear from other people. I also
Yeah.
like to share my thoughts. So Rick, do you have-
Well, I just have a little historical anecdote to throw into this discussion. And that's kind of the subject of, well, what about buildings in the past that a lot of us here don't even know about that disappeared? And I'll tell you one that's in my own experience, and that is, believe it or not, Ojai had a train station. Imagine a train station in Ojai. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong about this date, but in my memory, I believe it was 1968 when it was torn down. And I remember going to it and seeing it. My father, who is very much into history, couldn't believe that this was happening. However, believe it or not, in 1968, there was virtually no interest in the things that we're discussing tonight. Something that was built in 1890 or 1912 really hadn't been that long before. It would be like today, trying to protect something that was 40 or 50 years old. So at the time, my father recognized the travesty of it, but there was no outcry about a train station which was in perfectly good shape, not quite as fancy as the one in Santa Paula, but every bit as fancy as the one in Fillmore, and yet it disappeared. Today that would seem bizarre that would happen because we have this awareness. So I always think of that as having been a lost opportunity, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, thank you. Our new commissioner, have any thoughts on this, Lorraine?
Well, it becomes awfully, in my little short time here, hard when you have all of these rules and regulations that the state puts into all of these pieces of paper that we have to abide by, and the public thinks they need to abide by. It's very difficult, yet we need to maintain these properties. It's very, very important. I have traveled extensively with my family, and it's the most important thing when you go to a town to visit those places. They're fascinating, the things that you learn that you never knew before. We just took a trip to Falling Water and all of the Frank Lloyd Wright places, some of which would have been torn down if a couple of different people hadn't taken those and moved them. And now they're open to visit. That's just an example, but we need to do something to keep these places, and I agree with all you said, Craig, and what you wrote. I just find it daunting when you look at the regulations. And what do you do about that? How do you mesh the two?
Well, I think when the site structures of merit was drawn up, every effort was made to keep it as low impact as possible on the owner. You know, we tried to put something in there to expedite the review, so it would have to happen within a month of when the papers were filed, so that it couldn't go on for months and months and hold things up. We tried to make it, because this is a public good, why should the owner have to pay for a process that's for the public good, which is for all of us? So there was put in there the fact that there could be no fee charge to the owner for that review. And we've tried to make it so that only the things, and this has been a policy of Ojai for many years, is to keep it just on the external, what you see visually of the property, because we want people to reuse these properties. We don't want them just to keep them 1920s on the inside. We love it when somebody will buy a building, keep it historic on the outside, and then you go inside and they've made it into offices, or they've made it into homes, or they've made it into a restaurant or whatever. And you want to encourage that, because otherwise your whole program is going to go down the tubes if people don't feel like they can redo the inside and adapt that to a new use. So I think if you look around at all the landmarks in Ojai, and I think almost, there's 30 of them in Ojai, and 19 of them are in the downtown area, and people fear that their property values will go down, but that doesn't happen. There's been numerous studies that show that property values increase a little bit, if anything, for historic properties. As far as like the arcade goes, we love it when people mix up those walls and do different things inside and make it updated and modern. That's all part of the process of reusing it and making it something that grows while keeping the historic look. So I think we made every effort to try to make it as easy, and we've tried to emphasize and encourage the benefits as well. There really are tax benefits, and I would encourage the city of Ojai to make it so that Mills Act would be available for people that had these. But I understand the problem for religious organizations. You have a church. It's not always easy to find somebody that wants to rehabilitate and use a church. It might be a little more difficult than some other kinds of properties. So I don't know how that'll come down, but.
Okay, thank you. I have some thoughts, definitely. So I spent, I'm going to talk about, I spent the last year, 9 months of that contacting parcel owners, talking to them. This was in pursuit of Downtown Historic District, which is actually the next item we're going to talk to. So I talked to parcel owners one-on-one. face-to-face, I represented to them what the benefits that they were going to get with the Downtown Historic District. And again, that's something that we're going to talk about in the next item. The people that I talked to were given the options of, some of them are already landmarks. As Craig mentioned, many landmarks are downtown. That decision was, for the most part, made by them in the past. As far as being a part of the Downtown Historic District, they could decide, yes, they wanted to support the Downtown Historic District, wanted to support us going to the City Council and support the Downtown Historic District, or no, they didn't want to support the Downtown Historic District. They were given that option. No mandate on that, but again, talking with, there were, with a Downtown Historic District, which again, we're going to talk about, there are benefits that we relayed to them, dollar benefits that would come with having a Downtown Historic District. And in our code, in our discussion tonight, we have talked about when a historic district exists, for example, in Taormina, that the houses that are in that historic district are contributing to Taormina itself being known as a historic district. So the Mills Act is available to them. As was pointed out, the Mills Act is not available to a structure of merit. The Mara has, as far as tax benefits and different things, when it comes to a structures of merit, again, that's not in place. For that to be in place, the City Council would have to change the code, change the recognition of those, and essentially bump their value to the council, to the city, up to the level of being a landmark. Landmarks, of course, one of the benefits, and what we said again with the Downtown Historic District, was being able to have a Mills Act and do it in an expedited fashion. That currently is not available to structures of merit. In looking through the code, again, in detail, there is not a mandate. Again, that was relayed to me. It is something that we may do. It's something that I don't think any of us, if it was just putting together a list of structures of merit as exists in the package that we have and has existed in the 3 different presentations. And by the way, I was here for the presentation, as I stated earlier, when Craig Walker and Terry Hills discussed it September 11th, 2014. So if we were just making a list, a historic list to present to the city, I think we have already done that. The question is, what Craig's saying now is that somehow it has been determined, I'm not sure who planning was, that had to be, for it to have any value, it had to be approved by the city council. And so that's a question. I verified with Mara that if somebody was going to demo their property, they would, no matter what the status is, they would have to come to the city in order to get the demolition permit. Is that correct, Mara?
Yes. If it were a historic structure of merit, it would also have to come to the HPC. But regardless, anyone needs a permit to demo their house.
They have to come to the city.
Yes.
Let me finish, Craig, please. The language seems to be muddled a bit. It seems to be, I can see why people would think, again, I spent 9 months talking to people. I've heard all of the, I don't want to say arguments because it wasn't really an argument. It was an expression of just what you're expressing here today, but it was done one-on-one or with somebody else I brought with them. So I understand that people, there are people, note just for that we have 35 parcels that are in the list. 5 of those parcels were represented tonight. We don't know the the thought of the other 30 people. I don't know the thought of the people that are like, hey, you know, I love for my house to be known as a structure of merit. That seems to give a certain gravitas to it. So we don't know that. I think that there's still the confusion. I think it would be well to build on what Mara has shared with us and then just meet with the city attorney to basically get his stamp or clarification on what Mara has shared with us tonight. Again, she and I have been talking about this for a while. I have brought numerous questions to her, and so she has explained that to me, answered it, or gone and found answers to it. So I'm grateful to her for doing that. She has made herself and stated that she is available in each meeting that I can remember going back. So this seems, you know, this seems like we have this list of parcel owners that we believe to be worthy of being noted as structures of merit, but it has, in current state, no taxable benefit to them, as in a Mills Act, because the council doesn't recognize structures of merit as eligible for a Mills Act. We are saying that if it comes to us, we have no choice in whether to move it forward, and if it goes to the council, that the council has no means of moving it forward. Although having heard this numerous times over the last few months, our city attorney would look at the council and go, basically, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You just change the code because it's your code. And so I think they have some remedy there. But again, I would, the other thing, I would like to move this off into a future time period when we could meet together, where questions could be raised in a discussion with Mara, with the city attorney, where he could answer the questions, many of which have already been answered tonight. I also think that I've seen that the structures of merit discussion, again, I thought it would be maybe a bump when we first brought it up. I'd been around before when I think this is the third time. But it hasn't. It has turned out to be a means for rumors to take place. And the rumor is that the only reason we're doing the structures of merit effort is the fact that we lost having a downtown historic district, and this is our new way to get control of your properties. Let me tell you, that is an absolutely false statement. In January of this year, unfortunately, I was in that airline time frame that took place, trying to get back home, and instead of going home from Oahu, they decided to take us over to Maui and pay for our day there. And so I went there instead of coming to the meeting. But at that council meeting, the council unanimously gave us the green light to continue, and we've been giving ad hoc reports on that. So that is still ongoing. Craig has developed many of those processes, the overlays that I talked about. So we now have those in place. We haven't formalized them yet, but it's what we hope to formalize and then send to the city council for agreement. So to me, we have two different projects, somewhat related, structures of merit, downtown historic district. To us, they are, as you can see, two different items. That's why one's item number 3 and one's item number 4. However, they're being conflated by other people, and they are not. And so to me, the priority is the downtown historic district. And this, as we've seen, has been ongoing since 2013. I would like to I mean, the reasons for delaying the structures of merit till the next meeting or 2 meetings, whenever it works out, in order to get some, have a meeting with the city council or with the city attorney. I would like to move this off into sometime, hopefully early next year, but at a time when it's not conflicting with the downtown historic district, to where that has been decided one way or the other. So,
Brian?
yeah, just a second. I'm just going through my notes here. I mean, talking about the benefits to owners, again, code change. It talks about landmarking, Mills Act not available. So, yes, Craig.
Okay, at our last meeting, we did make a motion which passed 4-0 to forward this to the city council. And I don't know if that motion stands or if we need to make another one, but I would like to move that we forward this to the city council to, we've already investigated it. We've done our work. We've identified these historic resources, and we're making a recommendation to the council. I think that a lot of these legal issues will be handled by the city attorney, and he can make those points to the council because they're the ones. So I would move that we just the same as we did last meeting, that we forward this to the city council. And I think they have 90 days to iron out all the details and decide if they want to move forward.
Can I just get a clarification, just a second, Mara, on, you had a clarification when that comment was made?
Well, actually, there were 2 things. There was something that I wanted to just kind of wrap up before a motion was made, but then when I raised my hand, it was because Commissioner Walker said that at the last meeting that was a motion, and actually the last meeting was a motion, and 4 of you decided to delay it to the next meeting for me to respond to questions. That was what the motion was.
The motion was to allow people to come to this meeting.
And for me to respond to questions.
And to give, to give
information.
But
Right.
the
And then
motion does say we did vote to send it to the council. That's what it says.
Then I didn't review my minutes very well, because we're here tonight with responses from me and another opportunity for the public, because that's how we ended the meeting. We didn't end it with a motion to forward it to the council. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here tonight talking about it. So that's my mistake in the minutes. The minutes, anyway, we're here tonight, and tonight is, you are able to make a motion. A motion's been made, and so now it's not a good time for me to wrap up the way I was going to. It's time for the motion to either be seconded or not.
I think we've wrestled with it for
So a motion
all
was
these
made.
years,
So
and
a
it's
motion was
time
made.
to move it.
It's your
A motion
meeting.
was
It's
made.
your meeting, Chair. A motion was
A
made.
motion was
Is
made.
there a second?
I just want to, since a motion was made.
Do we have a second before we discuss it?
Well,
I don't think we're there yet.
yeah, a motion was made, but part of the support for that motion was a claim that the council unanimously voted to send it, or that the commission unanimously voted to send it to council. I can tell you with 100% certainty that I did not vote in favor of that happening. So,
Well,
I
let me
think we
read the
need
motion.
to-
Shall I read the motion?
Well, what matters tonight is that there's a motion on the table.
Let me finish, please, okay? So I think we need to go back and look at that, because again, that did not happen. But a motion's been made, so is there a second to that motion that Craig made? Okay, no motion made, so
Can I?
let's move, or no second made, I'm sorry. So, yes.
So I think that,
And
Oh,
to
me?
Mara.
yeah. I think that we're completely capable of handling many different items at the same time, including the downtown historic district and the sites of merit. I don't think they should ever be in the same meeting, because it's already 7 o'clock and we haven't even touched it. So if we ever wanted to not just do an update of an ad hoc, but really get into the nuts and bolts of the downtown historic district on the same night we're doing, it's just too long. So I do think it has to be staggered. I do think that this list has been looked over and whether or not religious institutions, there's legal questions. I don't have a problem with it eventually getting to council, but I think that we need a meeting with the city attorney before this goes to council, because the way it's written is creating a lot of problems. And if this is truly what I keep bringing up, that speed bump, that breath, that, this acknowledgement of this list, then it needs to be written in a way where we don't have homeowners, property owners showing up thinking that we're going to do way more than our intention is. So if the intention is not written in the code, that needs to be, we need the advice of the city attorney in order to have that written in a way where it actually reflects what our intention of the structures of merit list. And at that point, then I think it is ready to go to council.
Mara.
So what I wanted to do earlier is just kind of wrap up, however, whether it's necessary or not, what my staff report was, which was a response with the specific questions. But I'm going to start with the code. The City of Ojai Municipal Code for Structures of Merit requires structures to get approval from the building official and the HPC if they wish to demolish their structure, if it's on a structure of merit list. They do not need to get approval from the Historic Preservation Commission if they want to do an alteration to their building. They don't need approval. They would need to come and show you through staff. They would submit an application, and staff would be required to get the application to the HPC at the next meeting, and you would review it and give comment. It would not be you can't do that or you can do that. Is it a layer? It's free, by the way. So is it a layer of another process for the homeowners? Yes. But is it a place where the HPC can say, no, you can't do that, or you have to do it this way? No. And it does not cost anything. So I just wanted to, that is clear in the code.
And is that just for the exterior?
You know what? It doesn't say that. However, if the description is only about the exterior, then it's only the exteriors, whatever the description is, which is kind of like objects of record. So if you
A description
of the property, the description of the property for any of these properties on the list. So it talks about, so for instance, I'm working on a project right now, and it's only the exterior it's a historic property, though it's not a structure of merit because we don't have that list. It's the exterior only, and it's only certain parts of the exterior. It's only the chimney and the type of siding and the type of windows. There's other things that it doesn't consider. Well, that kind of sounds like everything, but then there's another property where there is an interior wall. That's part of the objects of record. So anyway, it's whatever the description is that is for the structure of merit. I have not ever heard of it being the interior.
But it needs to be clear.
So when it comes to structures of worship, the city attorney has weighed in. He's been, everything in this staff report has been reviewed by the city attorney and our building official. So structures of worship, the property owner would have to show that it would be a significant burden for them to be on some type of a historic designated list. There are no tax benefits through the city of Ojai for structures of merit. The building code does not apply to structures of merit. And once on an adopted list by the city council, or I shouldn't say once adopted, an applicant or a property owner cannot opt out. Property owner can't say, I don't want to be on the list. If the HPC has a list and they want to make this list and forward it to the council, and then it's adopted, then we have a list. But it's not because somebody wants or doesn't want to be on the list. The code doesn't give that option.
And that's one other thing. I would like it, because the people that I've talked to at the state office and Craig has talked to made it sound like you could use that state historic. So that is something else before it goes to council. I feel like
Okay,
these
and
things
it's-
just need to be.
And what's important is, that I'm not making this stuff up. It's
I
all
know, I
been
know.
reviewed by the city attorney. So, and anyway, with that, there was a motion and it didn't get seconded, so it's gone.
Right.
And the staff's recommendation, and it's my recommendation isn't what you have to do. You're the body that makes the decisions. But as your staff, I'm making the recommendation that you have an updated list before you forward it to the council, because the list is 10 years old. So that's,
Okay, so can I try to make a motion?
Well, just before you do that. So, in looking around at other entities, other cities, I looked at Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara does have landmarks and they have structures of merit. They define each of them. Basically, the structures of merit is just not quite a landmark. There are certain things that they have that call out a landmark and call out specifically. But I think in their case, they have elevated both of those to where they are historically significant to the city, to where they would be eligible for what you're talking about. But our city council has not done that. So Santa Barbara has who can nominate a structure of merit, and it goes there with an appeal process to the city council, who can nominate a landmark. But again, yes, yeah, I agree with you. But in looking at that and why, if someone were to look at that, they would say, oh, well, there's benefits that are attached to their structures of merit in Santa Barbara. That's because they have defined it differently. So I would like to make a motion, and that motion, or Gina, perhaps you have something that you,
Well,
go ahead.
I would like to make a motion that this list with these current properties, because it has a historical history with it, with an independent company that has reviewed it. It's been gone through several councils. This is a good, solid list. A lot of these properties, downtown historic district, whatever, but this is a good, solid list. So I think that I would like to keep moving forward, but not talk about this list until we talk about, my motion is to have a time where we can talk with the city attorney, where we can get clear answers. We could update the code so the property owners and the commission have it make sense to our intention, and that is what we'll be working towards. That is what I think that we need to do. Not table it, because we're capable of many projects at a time, but focus on what needs to be focused, and that's finding out the meat of this. We have the list. Now let's get the laws and have us be in agreement on those laws. Does that make sense to you?
Well, to me, we have the law before us, and we
There's discrepancies. I mean, you see it.
have to deal with what we have, and that's our job, is to make recommendations based on them.
But we need to have those recommendations be clear, and we are not clear. Anytime that we are having people show up, and they're not showing up because they don't, most of them are pro-preservation and they've been in this city for a long time, it's because that they're worried that we're going to do things that we have no intention of doing. And if that is the case, then we are not getting our message right. We are not understanding the way it's written correctly, and we need Mr. Summers to talk with us.
Gina, could you restate your motion? We need to move forward on that. We can have a discussion on that.
Okay, my motion is to,
And by the way, This is being recorded by 4 different cameras, and it will be on the city's website tomorrow morning, which is why I take a lot fewer notes than I do on any other meeting, just so you're aware of it.
My motion is to go forward with this list, not table it, but to request a clarification, a time where we can work with the city attorney to understand the laws, because there seems to be discrepancies on how it's worded and what is the understanding and the intention of the sites of merit.
Okay, so as they always say, and Susan has lots of experience, friendly amendment to your motion. I am concerned about the overlap between taking on a structures of merit and a downtown historic district. As I've heard repeatedly from multiple people, why are you doing that? All you're doing is submarining your efforts on the downtown historic district. So that's why I said that I would like to not table it, but have some kind of delay in there that takes into account what our priorities are. As far as a downtown historic district and the structures of merit. Right now, for me, the downtown historic district is the priority.
Well,
It
that's
has
all
real-
I've been,
real
that's what I've been working
benefits.
on for years now.
Real benefits to the people that we're talking about. Real benefits, not only the people that we're talking about, but real benefits that are for everybody that would be in that newer overlay that would simplify things. So many benefits. Let me finish with Gina. So Gina, is there some kind of modification that you would make in that? Do you think we need to make a modification? Again, I would like to.
Well, if you think about our downtown historic district and how sometimes it is a short update and sometimes we go into the nuts and bolts. I just think that as chair, when you're prioritizing, you look at the information. If we have new information that we can go forward, like with the city attorney, like having clarifications, then it merits putting it back on our full meeting and notification. If we are working on the downtown historic district and it requires a full conversation, then that is something that would be prioritized that month. I just don't think that we need to do either or. I think either or will naturally come depending on what we have to talk about and what is going on, what we're moving forward with.
That might be true, except for 11 of the properties that are on the structures of merit are also on the downtown historic district. So there is an overlay, and that overlay in our pursuit of the structures of merit is causing a negative blowback
But
towards the Historic Preservation
this
Commission.
is just the original list of the sites of merit. I asked Craig to hold off until we did the downtown historic district on an updated list and to have him maybe do that in the spring of next year. So this list, having a structures of merit, is an important list because there are things on here that just need to be, the council needs to be aware of it, the city needs to be aware of it. Whether or not it's 9 buildings that end up being on the downtown historic district and removed, and then 12 buildings come on it because of whatever reasons, this should be a living document that buildings come on and off of it all the time. I'm not talking about necessarily these things and what overlaps with the district and what doesn't. I'm talking about having a clear understanding of what this is and moving forward with this so everyone feels comfortable with our intention of this list. And I think that's what's lacking. And so I think we can do both simultaneously. Because if we get to the point where the downtown historic district gets approved, things will come off this list naturally. I don't think of it as, I think it's misunderstanding with certain entities out there with thinking that we're trying to replace one with the other. We're all capable of doing both these things. It's just, I don't think I wouldn't want to just back burner this. I think it's important that we maintain a list like this, and it's always going to be changing. right?
If there's again, I will share that I am out there in the community. People know who I am. People are talking to me. People are asking questions. People who have said no to us on the downtown historic district, and now we are sending them letters telling them that even though they said no on the downtown historic district, that their property as a structure of merit is going to go on whether they want it to happen or not, because that's basically what's been discussed at times in this meeting, and so we're doing things that are further irritating. I didn't look at those 11 and whether they were yeses or no. I was going to do that. I didn't have time for that. So again, I'm not saying that we wouldn't address the structures of merit at some time when we have better clarification and have had this meeting and have been able to answer questions, a request, found out what arguments are valid or not valid, maybe what changes we might suggest to the council. Some of the things you're talking about that you wish were in place cannot happen until we change the code with the council. Some of the things Craig's talking about, which could only happen with a change in the council. The change in the council is not going to happen for some time frame, certainly not in the next few months. Mara, were you going to say something?
Well, just that you shouldn't assume that the council's going to change the code. Nothing should be based on a change that's in the code by the council.
I'm not assuming that.
Okay.
I've been to every meeting of the city council that has to do with
Right,
anything historic.
It is as is today. So,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
I would just like that motion to just be like, we have a prioritized list of the structures of merit that is being currently worked on and in flux. What I want to do is, my motion is to work on the back end and have a clarity before it goes forward. So it's irrelevant what's on this list and who's on this list until until all the other things are in place. Then we can go back to it. By that time, maybe we've moved far enough along with the downtown historic district that where things are moving. But I don't know. I just think that my motion is just to not worry so much about who's on it. It's worrying about what it means to the buildings that are on it, and that's what I think needs more clarification and time.
Okay. Well, I talked to the people who are on it, and they're the ones that vote and are concerned. Craig?
Yes, as far as looking at priorities,
Wait, sorry, just a second. Can we, do we have a second then for Gina's motion?
I second it.
Okay, so now we can have further discussion. What?
And then before taking a vote, I'd want to clarify or have someone clarify exactly what that motion was. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do that once again. Yes, Craig?
thank you. Can I have the floor?
Can you have the floor?
Yes,
Well, you can now
thank
that we're
you.
on discussion.
I would like to point out that,
I'm
that-
sorry, just a second, Craig, I'm kidding.
You're discussing the motion.
Yes, we are. Yes, sorry, Craig.
well, as far as priorities go, all the 28 properties that are already in the downtown historic district through the state of California are already on the California Register of Historic Places. So they already are protected. They already need to come before the HPC if demolition or alteration are proposed. That's why you got the Oaks Hotel, the El Roblar. That's why that came. And also the Pac Bell building that came, because those are listed as contributing properties and are on the state register. These properties are not on the, except for the few that overlap,
11.
are not on the historic, are not on the California register. So they don't have that protection. So that's just something that needs to be said, that all of the things we're talking about doing with the structures of merit are already in place for these 28 properties through the state designation, because now the city of Ojai has got to review them for historic impacts, but the others don't unless we designate them.
So each of the people that I talked about in the 9 months we knew about the State Historic District, that it was in place. And so that was conveyed to them. Again, when it comes to the Downtown Historic District, and we'll talk about that hopefully a lot quicker. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion we need to have?
Well, I just want to kind of, as a question and also as a backup to what Gina was talking about, what I take her to say is she's asking for a rather simple overview of something that, of course, has the importance that she expressed. Is that right, Gina?
I just think that somehow we are not getting our message across well, or the code is written in a way where it could have many different interpretations. And as long as that's happening, it's not ready to go to council. I think that somehow we need to make sure that that we're hearing the property owners' concerns, and their concerns. Every person that I got there, I was like, I don't want to do that. I have no intention. I mean, everything that time they said something, I was like, that's not what this list is. But obviously, they feel that it's that list. So there's something that is fundamentally wrong with the way this is it's written in code, or the way our message is getting out. And I think that needs to be the next conversation before it goes to council.
Right, but the purpose of my question was, I think we all understand what you're saying, whether we agree with it or not. But I think that Chair Akins is concerned that this is something that's going to detract from other things, and it's going to go on and on and on. And I kind of took what you were saying to mean that we would get the readout from the city attorney, we would have another discussion, but this wouldn't necessarily go on and on forever, because the list is, you're not disagreeing with the list, you're disagreeing with what we don't understand and what the public doesn't understand, and that's a sticking point for all of us, and we want to educate ourselves, but this doesn't have to be a super long process necessarily. Is that what you're
Right.
getting at?
Yeah, it's just, we need a little bit more education and a little more clarification.
But not
Getting-
something that just goes on and on for
Right.
years. That's what I'm
I don't,
getting
yeah,
to.
I don't want to table this. I think that, but my priority is always going to be the Downtown Historic District, because that's where I put my time. But I see the merit in creating a list like this. Just looking at this list of, like I said, the architects, if we just ignore this list, we're basically telling council that these don't have any significance, and that's not doing our due diligence either. So we have to find that balance, and I think the balance is let's educate ourselves a little bit more before it goes to council.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that point.
No one is suggesting that these items in the structures of merit be ignored.
No, that's what Craig had said, that if we don't
I
do
know what
something,
Craig
then
said,
it's like we're
that
not
if
doing
we,
anything.
if we don't pay attention to them right now, then we basically said they're non-historic and we don't need to care about. But that's not what we're doing, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that they don't matter, that they aren't important, and that we shouldn't pay attention to them. I am just saying that I am talking to the people, the parcel owners, and relaying to you what I've heard on the 9 months that I contacted most of a majority of the parcel owners. And what I've been hearing since then from other people throughout the community, people that are involved, people that are observers. So it's not that I do want to get clarification. I've raised that point in the comments that I've made here tonight. I do want to pursue all of the different things that you're talking about, The possibilities of taking to the council, again, most of these would require a change to the council if the council decided, even if the council decided to go ahead and pursue that. I'll refrain from putting the odds on the council support. Again, I've been asked by individuals. Thank you, sir. So I am not saying that we need to ignore this for another 4 years. Again, this is the third time in 13 years that it's come before us, so it's not something that we've dealt with. I think I want to get it taken care of, decide what we want to do, and going forward. I just don't want this to be the interference it is right now and the sore spot it is, where it is giving ammo to those people who are detractors of the Historic Preservation Commission, saying that all we are power grabbers.
Well, we have no power. So
We have the power and responsibility to make recommendations.
Recommendations. We can't. That's about all we can do. But I do think that I think we're talking about the same thing. We're just using different words.
I think we are, because I'm not for tabling this completely, because there will be information. There may be new rulings.
Right. I want updates.
Everything's are changing. I'm fine with that. I just want to give the Downtown Historic District the priority, rather than sitting with this group getting a mailing every month, because we're going to give a minimal update on the structures of merit.
Yeah, that's why I think that it just adds fuel to the fire, though, if the appearance was we swapped one for another. If we do it again, it looks like we're just swapping back, because wait, maybe this one's more popular than this. I don't care what's more popular. I care what's doing it right and taking our time and being really thoughtful for everyone involved. And those things are just going to take time, and we have to do them simultaneously, but not on the same night, and not until we have more information. I just would like to just learn a little bit more before.
The appearance is not that we swapped him. The appearance is that we lost the Downtown Historic District, and this is our next step, independent of the Downtown Historic District, to gain control of these people's parcels. And I saw several people nodding when I was saying that.
Yeah, that's
so
not our intention.
So to the outside world, it's not that we're swapping. It's that we lost, and now we were frustrated with that. By the way, we haven't lost, as I explained.
No.
And that we just make a priority of this and moving it forward and getting it done. And then also, not that we stop working on the structures of merit, but that we, again, don't bring these people in for minimal updates,
right,
like we've done on the Downtown Historic District. That we work to get to a point to where we can come together with the answers, with the recommendations, and put that forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when we started talking about the Downtown Historic District, was at the very beginning of COVID. So that slowed us down tremendously, being able to contact anybody, being able to meet, and then not having the right format in our own commission. Out of the last 12 months, 5 of our meetings were canceled. So beyond just city government and commissions and all of us learning and taking our time, this has just been extra slow because of all of the obstacles that have been put in front of us with the pandemic, and then with our commission not having enough resident in, what do you call it? Thank you. A quorum for residents. But we're not, I'm just letting everybody know, just an update, that we haven't lost, it's a slow process, and we're just gonna do it right. We're gonna do it, we wanna make sure that we have all of our answers and our ducks in a row from all of sources before we go forward. And hopefully that will be next month when Craig and I will present a lot more to do with the Downtown Historic District, which we'll get to next, but I just didn't wanna act like just to clarify that we haven't lost, there hasn't anything to lose. It's just a very slow process.
Okay, so again, my request to you is that in some way we put a priority, not dismissing structures of merit as a part of your motion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it'll just naturally happen. Like I said, as the chair, you're going to see when we have more information and when we don't. You know, I think that'll be natural.
Possible. It hasn't for 10 months now.
Yeah, but I mean, if
For 10 months, it's interfered.
we need questions answered, we need time, and I think that's just going to be a natural thing. So however if you want to try to do a motion again, but I don't want to
Well,
make
you
sure we
made the
don't.
motion and it was seconded,
Oh,
so.
okay, then
Only you can adjust your motion.
I don't think it needs adjusted. I think that, like I said, I think that it's not necessarily what's on this list. This list has been vetted for years and years by many different, independent people, and I'm not questioning the list. I'm questioning the intention behind it. So I would like to bring this to a future meeting, that we're not discussing the Downtown Historic District, to work on this a little more before we bring it to council. Does that make sense? Is that the same, or do we need to do a?
Well, so it sounds like you're giving equal priority to the two items.
Not equal priority. I mean, like I said, the Downtown Historic District is always going to be my priority, but I think this is an important thing that's been kind of, I mean, just since I was been aware of the commission, I've seen it go on and off the website. This has been a list that has been a thing without a lot of fanfare or hoopla for many, many years. So I just want to, have our learning process keep going, not.
I have been on this commission through each of those hearings.
Yeah, I mean, right now Craig and I are working on what's going to be the finalization of a lot of things with the Downtown Historic District that's naturally going to come forward. But at the same time, we need to get a little bit more educated on this too. So I don't know.
Well, with the Downtown Historic District, then this, of course, would become the first priority. So,
The Downtown Historic District?
no, the structures of merit.
I don't. I mean, if it was a done deal, it was completely in the bag. We understood everything. The property owners understood everything. Matt came in and saved the day and explained everything and was ready to wrap up and go to the council, and the property owners felt good about it. Yeah, why not have it go first? But I don't, I mean.
Okay. So Sherry, can you call roll call, please?
Well, I need to have it repeated, the motion. so
Okay.
If the
I'm
motion
clear.
and I know the motion was made and seconded, but if the motion could,
Hang on.
could be restated.
Sure, absolutely.
Continue.
That we move forward with the structures of merit, not paying as much attention to who is on the list as we are working on what the list means and what the intention is, and getting advice from the state and from our city attorney before we bring it to council.
How would we be getting advice from the state?
I don't know.
Staff hasn't been authorized to do more research on this project, and I don't know that we would be back here at the HPC in a month with the city attorney and saying something different than he's already said, which is in your staff report, and also, getting information from the state, and that's a lot, and it's also kind of confusing, and we have our code that we're following, and which is right here.
That goes back to my workshop idea.
So anyway, I wanted to make sure that the motion was very clear to Sherry, who's writing it down, and to the commission, who's going to be voting on it. So it sounds like the motion is to continue this to a time when the city attorney can be here and that there be state information, but I, as staff, don't understand what that means. And keep the list as it is and then come back to another meeting.
I just think that I obviously, we're going to continue with the downtown historic district. That's going to overlap, and like I said, having both of these in the same meeting, it just makes it too long. So obviously, this isn't going to necessarily, until we have more of an education on it, until we understand the backside of it, that it doesn't go to council.
Do you get your motion?
Does that make sense?
Is it,
Well, what I'm hearing is, and so in a sentence, in a motion, is that the historic structures of, or the structures of merit is to be continued until the city attorney can come and talk to you. And I do not understand what the state, more information from the state is and how and where it's gonna come from. Oh,
Sorry, Barbara.
no, we have our,
I wanted-
council.
What I would like to suggest, if you could reopen the public hearing, and Katrina Rice-Smith has a comment that might help move this forward,
sure.
a clarification.
Is everybody okay with the reopening
Yeah.
public comments? Craig?
Yeah, okay, Katrina?
Rick? Yes, please, come forward.
I'm not sure this is the case, but I think what you mean to say is that you're okay with the list as it's prepared, with the properties that are on there should stay on the list, move the list forward, but review the structures of merit ordinance and what it says. Because it does say any permit, and it doesn't specify exterior versus interior or what permits that means. It does say demolition or alteration, and it does say any permit for a repair. So maybe that's what you want to do, is look at the structures of merit ordinance and make changes to that.
So the parts about the repair and those things are to be reviewed by it says it in the code, to be reviewed by the director, and the director makes the determination whether or not it needs to come before the HPC for comment. Not for approval, but for comment, for review. The only time you would be giving approval or denial would be if there's a demolition. But yes, everything else would be up to the director as to whether or not it came forward. Again, sorry.
Says that
repeating
in the
itself,
code.
For review and comment.
Yep.
It's the code is clear on when it comes and doesn't, when the director is to make a determination. Now, that's not black and white. The director makes a determination as to whether or not it's going to
Correct.
come here. Yes, yes, absolutely. So-
And that's what's causing fear too, and like, because it's got that repair
It's not
word.
to be, it's not to be approved by the HPC, it's to be reviewed and commented.
But that
And
could be
so-
reopened. If we're reopening the ordinance, we could discuss those things.
Yeah, and plus it's a time sink. You guys haven't met for 5 months. I'm trying to replace a water heater. I have to wait 5 months. Not that it would probably, a water heater would go to the commission, but I mean, Lucas is a reasonable guy, so he probably wouldn't say, hey, your water heater has to go to the HPC. But maybe the HVAC does because it has exterior units. So, the structures of merit ordinance is a problem, I think.
I would like time to work on the ordinance to make it clear.
I've been saying that all the way through.
Yeah. And as I
That in
said, we've been
fact-
saying the same thing.
That in
but-
fact, yes, we
So
need,
that would be-
these are changes that we need to suggest to the council to improve the language, the code as it meets with these people. Okay, I'm 100% for that. I've said that. I went through the code in detail. I am just personally seeing that having this, talking about both of these tonight is just adding to the conflict on the downtown historic district.
Well, I also like to think that people see that we're reasonable.
Don't.
So hopefully, but I just, because I want to get this right. And as far, I'm not saying that I agree or don't agree with this list, because there's questions about churches and things. But I think that the list is secondary to adjusting, getting, input about the code, so we understand it. There's a clear intent of what the structures of merit list is before it goes to council. And I think that that doesn't have to be, because if we take this list and we close it up and we're talking about what the structures of merit list is, then we don't have to notify anyone, because we're working on the nuts and bolts behind it. And then once we get to a point, either before or after the downtown historic district, then we start talking about what's on the list. Then we could bring, but we need to work on the actual ordinance. Once like I said, I think
It's
we're
in my
agreement.
notes, and yes, what I've been saying all night.
Yeah. So do you want to
So-
try, since you want me to keep working on the same one, or do you want to, is it still live?
You're still, yes, your motion and second is still alive. We were just trying to clarify what that was. So,
Well, the question too that Mara's brought up is, anything we do, other than doing it outside on some form of ad hoc committee, is going to, and even on that, we're asking for staff time. And we don't have staff time authorized to do the support that you're talking about, or do we?
well, I'm not
Did I
sure
misread
what,
that?
I'm not sure what, exactly what's being, if anything, is being asked of staff.
Thank you, Katrina.
That's not clear. But to have the city attorney here, that's already been asked for. We know that, except again, it was for CEQA. But anyway, whether it's for CEQA regarding historic properties or it's regarding this, it is coming out of your budget. So, I mean, that's not that you're worried about that, but I just want to let you know that. So it sounds like the motion is to put the current list just to the side until you have the city attorney come in and talk to you. And again, I just don't know how to even clarify
Regarding the ordinance of the structures, the ordinance and intent of the structures of merit.
the code.
Yeah.
The code and the intent of the structures of merit,
Yes.
not the ordinance, the code. And then I'm still not certain what you meant by state, but that's clear as far as that's what I'm hearing, and then has been seconded by
Rick.
Commissioner Basasha.
Yeah, to me, I mean, it comes down with clearing up the code. And just like this meeting has been in getting answers to the last meeting on what we were hearing, on what is mandated, what is a option or no option. And so we get, and how do we improve the code in order to move forward? Again, I find it, when I'm comparing it to the options that were given to the people for the downtown historic district, the options for the structures of merit just seems severe based on what the code says or doesn't say. Currently, there are a lot of questions that the code doesn't answer.
Would that work for you, that the, it's not overlapping because we're not looking at who's on this list? We can still move forward with it because we're working on code, and that's just another job that the commission is working on. So, and we're getting education, we're gonna have Mr. Summers here. So it's not gonna overlap necessarily with as long as we're not talking about anybody who's on this list, then it's not overlapping, right?
No, we're just looking to, again, understand the code better. I mean, as Mara said, I got the answers that I had on other things. Again, we've had the opportunity to talk over the last couple of months. But understand the code better and understand its impact, again, based on what we've heard in these two meetings and what I've heard in talking to the parcel owners this last year. What we can do, or what Matt might suggest to us as improvements or clarifications for the code.
Yes.
And we could work on that. I mean, if you look at the notes, if we go back and review the meeting based on what we've heard tonight, then we can independently or form an ad hoc meeting and understand what our concerns are and what the parcel owner's concerns are, and put that together in some form before we meet with Matt, so that we're not wasting Matt's time or Mara's time in kind of a back and forth.
Absolutely.
You know, we've only spent 2 hours and 45 minutes tonight. I am, just so you know, I am trying to get approval for another commissioner so that we get to 6, so then we can have 3 individuals on the each of the ad hoc committees.
But
right now we're limited to 2.
How do we get an approval for an ad hoc?
My understanding is that we ask it goes to council to ask for approval to work on it, to get an ad hoc committee to work on a topic.
Okay. Which means we have to.
But we have a motion to put this current list aside and have city attorney come and educate you on the code and further clarify what's already in the staff report. And I don't know about the state comment.
Well, don't worry about the state.
You need to change your motion, and then have a second, and want to take a vote.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm going to pull the state. The state I was thinking more of just us learning more as individual commissioners about what a structures of merit list is in different other cities in the state, not necessarily bringing that information for Maura to worry about. That's just more for us to learn about how other people do it. So when we do meet with Matt, we've learned on our own through our own investigation and education. So that's.
So the motion is then?
We're going to keep working on the structures of merit, but we're going to not work unnecessarily who's on the list. We're going to work on the nuts and bolts behind the list, and work on understanding and adjusting, if necessary, the code to make more sense of what our intention is for the structures of merit. So it lines up with what we think the list is. Can I ask one question? Was there anybody who listened to any of those and we were like, yeah, that's exactly what we want to do? Every one of them was, no, I don't want to do that, right? I mean,
well, I don't know what you're talking about.
With all the people who came up with the property owners,
didn't
you feel like, wow, I don't want to do that to you? That's not what our intention is. Every one of them was not something I'd ever want to. That's not the intention of what I think any of us think the structures of merit list is. So that's why I think that we need this time, because if that's what people are feeling that this is, then we need to understand it and maybe adjust it.
That was no surprise to me at all, because I heard that all through last year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I totally understand where the parcel owners,
right,
where you folks are coming from.
Exactly. But
and the other thing that we would want to do is going back to Krista Murdy, to what Elena sent us in her document. I think it was emailed or something to us. There were some excellent questions in that document that we, when we come back, need to be able to answer.
Okay.
So in the meantime, we have a motion, and if that's what you already understood, Rick, then you've seconded the motion.
I second the new motion.
I think we're ready.
Do you want to ask Sherry to take a vote?
Yep, I was just gonna.
Okay.
Eyeball everybody and see if they were
Akins.
ready. Yes.
McHatton.
Yes.
Walker.
No.
Basasha.
Yes.
Sims.
Yes.
Great, thank you all. Just so you understand, so the properties have been set aside. th- by not doing that, I don't think there's a notice that needs to take place because we're going to be talking about the code rather than the parcel owners.
Since we're going to be talking about structures of merit, it's possible that we're going to be notifying people so they can be.
Yes,
be,
yes, if
we'll-
it's
we'll be
something
letting
that's
the-
going to affect that.
Well, right, if we're going to be discussing the structures of merit, then we'll probably send out a notice to them saying it's on the agenda for discussion, whether it's about the code or a legal representative, just to let them know so they can attend if they wish.
With the hope that when we do alert you, that we will have resolution and further clarification and suggestions that we're thinking of or that we've discussed to recommend to the council. So,
The notice that goes out will certainly let them know what you're doing, whether it's time to to make a recommendation to council, or if it's for a discussion, or for it's an educational hour. So we'll let them know what is on the agenda.
okay.
If you
So,
don't mind, when you're finished with this item, if we could take a break.
oh yeah. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your concerns. And Susan?
May I just quickly thank you for your hard work, because I'm going to leave.
Oh,
have to.
Susan.
I really have to, because otherwise I'll just be too burned out for Tuesday night.
Okay.
I actually have 5 meetings next week at night, every night, starting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
So,
thank
but
you.
thank
Thank you
you.
for being
Thank
our
you.
liaison.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate your thoughtfulness. And the truth is that the more you can do here, the better for the council. And even if you try to send it, God knows when it'll be on the agenda, because we're so
Exactly.
booked. And, we're looking for a new city manager,
Mhm.
and that's taking up considerable
Katrina, thank you.
time. So, thank you. I just so appreciate, because I know how hard it is up here. You have to listen, pay attention, and grapple with the pros and cons of the decisions. So thank you. Thank you.
And again, to those that are still here with us and those that may be listening with us, if you have questions, if you have suggestions, please send those in to Mara, because she is the kind of the path where it gets to us. And so we are always open to questions and to suggestions.
Thank you.
So again, we appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Sorry it took so long, but every so often it happens. Yes, we'll take a break.
Be sure to turn your microphones off during the break.
Thank you.
Yes?
Are we ready, Sherry?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody have their mic on? Or if they need to. Okay, so proposed local downtown historic district ad hoc committee's progress report. Anything from staff?
The only thing from staff is what the recommendation is on your staff report, which is to review, update, and discuss the ad hoc committee progress regarding tasks assigned related to the proposed downtown historic district designation. And the last comments or discussion were on August 10th at the last meeting, and Vice Chair McCatton reflected on her reasons as to why she was serving on the commission at that time. That's included in your staff report, and I'll hand it over to you.
Okay.
And
Take it away, Gina.
all right. So, as you all know, there was a project a few years ago that we were not aware of. That was a Caltrans project that made it so we ended up with a report done that made it so we are now an official state of California historical resource in the Downtown Historic District. They call it the Downtown Ojai Historic District. And when Craig and I were making phone calls to the state SHRPO office and to other foundations, it was very confusing because we'd be like, well, the Downtown Historic District, the Ojai Local Downtown Historic, and they'd be like, now which one? Your local or your state? It got to be really confusing. And so we were suggested, and then Greg came up with a alternative name because having it be so close to that name was making it very confusing for the state when we would talk to them. And so Craig suggested the Civic Center Historic District. And we wanted to bring it to you guys and get your feedback. It could be the Ojai Civic Center, the Civic Center Ojai Historic District, something. But maybe bring in the Civic Center because that was Libby's vision of that downtown corridor area. And have the state have a completely different name so it's clear that we're not overlapping and talking about the wrong thing and the different thing. So how does anybody have any comments and thoughts about?
I have a question. So, did I hear you say that was a Mr. Libby name for
Oh, you can
the
take that,
or the
Craig.
term civic? Was that?
Yeah, Libby wanted the downtown to be more than just the business district. He had this sort of city beautiful idea of the downtown being a gathering place for the citizens. And he really felt that all of his renovations and remodels would help to inspire the local population to be more civic minded and become more involved with the community. So those of us that grew up in Ojai know that the park was originally, before 1981, it was called Civic Center Park. And that's because that name reflected the fact that this was the civic center of Ojai. You had the post office, you had the city hall was actually right down there, and the public monuments in the park and everything. It was supposed to evoke that civic center. And it's remained that way ever since. You know, it's a place where we go to the park for concerts and for events, and the post office. And so then it was after the city took over control of the park that they wanted to rename it Libby Park. And they did that. They named it Libby Park after they tore down the pergola at 4 a.m. So anyway, that just came up that possibly if you wanted an alternative name, you could give it that historic name.
Also, there's the Civic Association.
Mm-hmm.
That name is kind of linked because wasn't that something founded by Libby too, to oversee
Right,
the
he
post
formed
office
the
and the
Civic
park?
Association to control the park and to control the post office. So they made all the money off the post office, and they used that supposedly at renting the post office out to support the park. And so the Civic Association now no longer controls the park because the city kind of coerced it away from them. And, but they use that money for other projects as well, like they gave money for the Clough Vista Park. Their mission is to help the people of the Ojai Valley with recreation and parks. And they do spend the bulk of the money that they get on refurbishing the tennis courts and keeping the park. You know, they donate a lot of money to the park, even though it's owned by the city. But
Yeah, they've made donations to the museum. They like where they match a contribution that the the museums. Who's the family that owned the big house on San Antonio there? Wilson's. So John and Ginger Wilson donated a certain amount and from their estate, and then the Civics Association matched that. They also donated money before I got there for the storage facility that's in the back. I think that was like $100,000. Again, it had a match to it, so.
You could see how the downtown Ojai Historic District and the local downtown Ojai Historic District just sounds like the same thing. And it can be really confusing when you're trying to explain which, where there's an overlap and which things apply to what, and when you're talking to the state.
I will verify that because I had to explain that for 9 months.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if we'd had Ojai Civic Center Historic District, maybe I would have gotten the Civic Association. I'll reach out to
Does
them.
anybody have any other ideas they want to put on the table, or do they like that?
I like it that it's the old historic name. I think that's important as a tie to the past. Definitely. I don't know how, if most people would understand it, but
most people won't
I like the
remember it. As
idea.
time goes along, fewer and fewer.
I don't remember that, but I left for a while. So.
Yeah.
The whole city beautiful concept was just fascinating too, and bringing that name and the civic center back to Ojai, I think is really nice. 'Cause it's important. It's part of our story that we're telling, and that's the difference. Like people say, why do we need a local historic district if there is a state historic district? And it's because when the state did this, it was for a specific reason. It was for a corridor. It was a pedestrian project. So it was literally the area. They weren't going to pay for finding out more up down the streets. They were going to find out just the area that they were looking in. And so they focused only on Libby and only on this one little area. And it's wonderful. It's a wonderful acknowledgement that we have this, and that the state acknowledges that we are a resource, a historical resource. But the story of Ojai is a little bit longer, bigger, and we have more stories to tell, and a longer time frame to tell it. So when you have a local district, you can incorporate more of our story, our history.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. You're just a little late. Could have saved me like all this energy. Seriously. I also spent the time explaining to them how we have a state historic district that nobody knows about, and the city has never acknowledged. So,
Yeah,
also
because
fun.
it's a section, well, we can explain it.
Yeah.
What's that?
Explain that because it's a section 106 that it happened without needing the council's input on it, because it's there's different ways to come to a resource, and the way ours came about through this Caltrans project, it didn't go through the council. It didn't need to go through the council.
And it's very rare to have that happen. Apparently, what has to happen usually is the city forms a historic district, and then they apply to the state and have to jump through a lot of hoops. And it's very difficult then to get it on the California Register. It takes a lot of money, a lot of expense, a lot of, effort by historians, by the city, by people to get it on that California Register. But because of the ATP project that the city got, they were getting funding from the state, and the state was getting the funding from the federal government. And the federal government has this requirement that any money used for transportation they have to evaluate the properties for historic significance. And they sent a team of people down. You should see the report if you haven't seen it. It's really thick and analyzes every building. And they said, you know, you don't just have a collection of historic buildings. You have a historic district that's unified, that's got a common theme and a common purpose. And they then have to automatically send that to the State Office of Historic Preservation. Caltrans did, and that's part of the law. So they sent it to the state office, and the state office reviewed it and put it on the California Register, and nobody in Ojai seemed to know about it. And
Including us.
Over 2 years, yes, including us, but it turned out to be a nice verification of the 2 years that Gina,
Our COVID
Craig,
years.
and I worked on the ad hoc coming up with it. I will tell you that, just so you know, the Caltrans did come to the HPC. It was the fall of 2017. Yeah, it's now the fall of 2013. And they
2023.
told us that they were going to be coming through town and they were going to be doing a survey of the curbs, gutters, and sidewalks. And let us know. And we said, we were currently working, I think, maybe on landmarking this and one other thing. And we were busy and basically said, thank you very much. Goodbye.
There were some comments about trees and comments about, not being near the arcade, but there wasn't anything suggesting that they were suggesting that this was going to end up being something as significant as a downtown historic district.
And like I was saying, because it's on the California Register, the city then is obligated to review those properties under CEQA. So if one of them comes up with a remodel or a demolition, it has to go to CEQA, through CEQA, and it has to then come to the HPC for their review. So that's interesting that those 28 properties are already kind of protected, but the benefit would be so great if the city would adopt it, and because then the city could manage and steward it better than just having it hanging out there and having the city code maybe being.
Well, that's what the local district can do as well.
Okay, so, sorry,
So the question
813.
is, we can, it doesn't have to have the word Ojai in it, but it can.
I
could
think it
be
should. I think it
Ojai-
should
so
go with
could-
Ojai Civic Center Historic District.
Okay,
just so-
OCCHD.
Yes, please make sure it's not a bad word when we're doing the acronym.
So does, do we take a vote on that, or?
Yeah,
is it
we
something
need to make
informal?
I think, a motion.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to officially change the proposed local downtown historic district to be called the Civic
Ojai
Center,
Civic-
Ojai Civic Center Historic District.
Yes.
Second.
Okay. Sherry, roll call, please.
Who was that second?
Greg?
Craig, okay. Akins?
Yes.
McCatton?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Basasha?
Yes.
Sims?
Yes.
We can't do things quick.
Okay, and then as far as the rest of it, we're still working on the map and a lot of the finalizations with everything and code and fees and things. So we hopefully will have to present in December.
And we're working on the boundaries, right? The
Yeah.
exact.
Yes. And you might get some,
And if by chance we don't meet in December, then in January.
yeah.
December's kind of busy.
And
So for Loran and Rick, maybe who are new to this, there's the definitely defined historic district that the state has drawn these boundaries, and they are already enshrined in Sacramento, wherever they put them on their register. But what Ojai is trying to do, what we're trying to do is expand it a little to include more of the historic buildings, because they were only concerned about what was just on the right and left of Ojai Avenue. And it just so happened that was Libby's thing. So they picked the historic period of significance as 1917 to 1929, because that was when Libby built his buildings, and then the other businesses followed suit and started redesigning their buildings and designing new buildings to be in the Spanish style to match up with what Libby did. But there's also all this stuff that went on before 1917, which was more in a different style. It was more in the craftsman and Victorian style. So what's interesting is because Libby just put the arcade on the front of the buildings, when you walk down the arcade, you see all the buildings are kind of more Victorian style. They're the original Old West storefronts with this Spanish style. It's kind of a hybrid. So the story of Ojai is really how this Old West town got kind of re-envisioned as a old Spanish village, you know, a quaint Spanish village. And even the theater building is these old West buildings that had this facade put on. And actually, the theater building happened before Libby, so it almost inspired him, I think, to do what he did.
So can I ask you a question about that, just to clarify? So the photos you see of the old wooden buildings downtown, pre-arcade, you're saying that those are some of the buildings that are there now?
That's right.
At least the ones that didn't burn down in 1917.
Yeah, half of them burned down in 1917.
But at the inception of it, those were the buildings with this facade just put across.
This facade put on it, and that's the way it went. What was interesting is when they redid it was a big project when they renovated the arcade, because in 1989 the state came along and said you have to you have to beef up these old buildings so they don't fall on people. And the city was trying to stay out of it because Libby had set it up so that every shop owner owned the portion of the arcade right in front of their building, in front of their store. But they could never agree on when to fix the arcade because it was held not in common, but everybody owned their arch out in front. And so finally the city used redevelopment funds and they took the arcade by eminent domain, and the owners were happy, the owners of the stores. It wasn't a fight. They agreed to let the city do that. But what was interesting is when they were starting to repair the arcade, they discovered that the arcade was actually what was holding up a lot of the stores behind it, because they were so old and weak that they had to come in. It cost them more money. They had to bring this liquid concrete, shoot it down between the buildings to solidify it.
Can
So-
I ask a request? Can you send the Caltrans document to the two newer commissioners so they could look at it? It's just by email, just so
I
they.
think it's loaded on our website.
It is?
Sorry, yeah, there's Sherry, so that, yes, it's on our website.
Okay,
But you can give me a call if you can't find it.
okay.
Yeah, same thing for Loran, for the current map.
The
current-
current map is in our packet?
The current
What
map's
current
in.
map of the,
in
of
the
your
packet?
local downtown historic district?
Uh-huh.
Isn't that in your packet?
Oh, towards the end, right?
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay, okay, great. Yeah, if you just showed that to her. Okay, great.
I want to remind the commission that when you have something that you want to put into the packet, or something like this that's going to require a staff report potentially, that there's timing for everything. And so, for instance, any information, for the downtown historic district, I'll need it by December 1st, at the latest. Your packets go to you, or we have your packets ready the Friday before the Thursday meeting. Notices, if a project needs a notice, it actually goes to the paper even the Friday before that. So we have to work backwards with all of our staff's deadlines. So, and then staff reports are written in there. Thanks.
Okay, I think
Okay.
that's my update.
Item number 5?
Yeah, that's me too.
It is.
Yeah.
So Gina, what do you have to tell us?
You want to say anything first, or?
Staff report? Yeah.
So, item number 5, Chair Akins and Vice Chair McHatton have requested a discussion regarding educational opportunities for the HPC. Specifically, there's an annual membership opportunity with the California Preservation Foundation featuring online seminars, workshops, and access to previously recorded webinars, workshops, and seminars and other things. There's a flyer provided in your packet. The Historic Preservation Commission has an annual budget, for 2023 and 2024. There's a budget for training, education, and seminars in the amount of $10,000. And it's good to use it. So if you don't use it, then you might not get as much the next year or something, I'm not sure. The annual membership fee is $500, and it would be the city that would have the membership, and that would include all of you. And what the membership does, it's called a patron membership, it would give us the basic membership, and then each individual event has an associated fee, or it might be free.
Yeah.
But the associated, if there is a fee, then the fee would be individual. Again, it would come out of your budget, and you would just sign up, through staff. You would let staff know if you wanted to go to a specific event, and then we would, figure out.
Oh, okay, so there wouldn't be anything on the commissioner's part?
Oh, no.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
not that I know of. I mean, if there's a plane ride in a hotel, I don't know.
Yeah.
But certainly the fee for the event would be taken care of through this educational thing here. And so what the commission should do then is discuss and consider requesting staff to subscribe to this California Preservation Foundation's annual membership, as you see it in your packet. And then that would be the decision that you're making tonight and taking a vote on.
Okay, so,
And then also, Commissioner McHatton sent forward to you, and I sent it, or Sherry maybe sent it to you via email, that there is a, is this the, oh, this is
Different company.
this is different. This is National Alliance of Preservation Commissions. It's a different event, and there is an admission fee, and,
$15. Can I
right,
borrow
and
that?
so,
Can I borrow that?
so, anyway, that came in after, and I don't, but what you would be voting on tonight would be, the annual membership of the California Preservation Foundation annual membership, as in your packet.
Okay,
So,
can I make a motion? Or do you
can I
want to?
talk a
tell?
little bit?
Please.
So during COVID, I was looking for ways to get more of an education on historic preservation, and I found that all of these companies just moved everything online, including USC. That at one point, I think you went, I went. Did you go too? All different years that they used to send us to USC, take classes, put us up in a hotel, back in the days when we had a bigger budget. But those classes came on to online too, so I was taking those. And then from there, I started looking at all the people who were speaking, and it's just, there's so much available online for free. But a lot of it, I was attending meetings in different cities and states, and a lot of it, some of it doesn't apply to us. It's still very interesting. I mean, like you, I started watching commissioner meetings in Connecticut because that's where I was born, and it's just fascinating. But this particular company or foundation has just been solid with their stuff. There's one that I attended that was a 3-parter. It's they do kind of like boot camp or something they call it, and it was on CEQA, which I was saying, I think that if Matt was to look at it, he probably would be like, oh, just do that. It's probably fine, because it's so in depth, and it really teaches you all of what it is and what CEQA laws are. And there's one that there's a three-parter. The last part was today. Also very commissioner-oriented, really, really good. So once they go past the time where they're live, we have access to them for free with this $500 patron. So there's like 200 plus of these things. You can just sit in your pajamas at home and just watch it. The only difference is you can't comment. You can't read the comments of other commissioners talking. So if that's something that you felt like you wanted to do, then you get a 50% discount off of it. And it's never really expensive. It's like $75 for the 3-part boot camp, so it would be half that. But all of those are, as long as they've already happened, they're all for free. And it's such valuable information. I think everybody would really love to just get on there, just learn so much. And then this other organization, so that's $500 a year. And then there's this that came up that's also through the National Alliance of Preservation of Commissioners. And this is really fascinating because it really talks about what we're doing with the Downtown Historic District. The first one, there's a 2-parter. The first one is more federal, but still it's interesting to learn because, you want to know about a National Historic District, which if you look at the Caltrans, it says that we are applicable to apply for the federal if we wanted to. But it's just good to have that information. And then the second part, which comes in January, is understanding how to put together a local historic district. And it goes into the period significance. It goes into, how to do it. And it looks like it's got some really good people in it. And that's $15 a person. So that's something separate. But anyway, I sent that to you guys to look at. But just for tonight, if we want to take this $10,000 and spend $500 on it, seems like a steal for all of us. So what the field officer said that we would have, like, the city would be the one who would subscribe to be, and they would have a username and password, and that would be for all of us to use. And and then there's also I think it's in the summer, there's going to be, every year they do a in person. Well, now that we're past the pandemic, it's in person, and this time it's going to be in downtown LA. And so we get one for free, and then the rest of us, if we wanted to go, it's like a reduced amount. But that's something that if we wanted to attend it in person and be around other commissioners and learn more, then that's an opportunity, but that's not until later. So that's kind of what I've learned. Any questions?
So I'd like to make a motion that we make a request to City Council to allocate the $500, or we don't have to.
No, you just have to, I can
Sweet.
just do it.
I didn't say that. Okay, so
I mean, I would just, we would do it. in
we
the
had this
community
discussion.
development. You don't need
Yeah.
to go to council to get approval.
Okay, so I make a motion that we spend $500 of the city's money to go ahead and have the city of Ojai sign up for this so that we can go to the meeting. When's the ABCs? It's coming up soon.
That's a different thing.
Oh, that's a different thing?
That's the other company.
So that's my motion. Do it.
Okay, I'll make a second.
Sweet. Sherry, roll call, please.
Akins,
Yes.
McHatton,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Basasha,
Yes.
Sims.
Yes.
So one thing that Maura and I discussed was, maybe if we didn't have anything on the agenda to watch one together, but that seemed a little weird way to do it. So what we decided might be easier is in the commission comments at the end, maybe if you've taken a class or, you want to take a class, to talk about it so we all can learn from each other. That might be a nice way to do it. Also, so if somebody wants to take something that's live and it costs like $35, how do we do that?
Oh, I'm sorry. If you wanted to do what?
If you wanted to go to a live one, or you want to do this other one that's $15.
Oh, you would let the Community Development Department know, and we would sign you up for it.
Okay.
Or, yeah, or you would, we would figure it out. You just call me.
Okay. All right, that's all I got.
And it would be paid for out of your budget, out of the
Okay,
education section.
So most of these are, very inexpensive, $35, $15. Most of these are free, but the live ones or the other organizations, but maybe we should have a, like, per commissioner, if you get to a certain amount, you have to like, I don't know if anybody wants to do that, so you kind of keeping track of
Well,
anything.
we
or-
would certainly be keeping track of who's going to what and how much is being spent.
Okay. Okay, I just didn't want to, because if I start going to a bunch, anybody yelling at me. Okay, I think that's it.
I'm going to find out if it's a quorum issue, or a Brown Act issue, rather, if you were all to go to a conference. Certainly if it's online, it's not a quorum,
Right.
Brown Act issue. But when the time comes, or before the time comes, we'll find out if you could all attend something at the same time, or if more than two of you can. And I will figure that out. Okay,
Okay.
so do you want me to talk about item number 6?
Sweet, yes, please.
Item number 6, our future, are you ready to move on? Gina, were you ready? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Future agenda items. So, so far, we are meeting on December 14th, January 18th, February 8th. So we have these down to, or now it's the Ojai, I'm sorry.
Civic Center.
I've been here since 7 a.m. So, yes, downtown, or Ojai Civic Center Historic District is on for every meeting in the future to discuss, and we'll change the title of it on your calendar here for future agenda items. City Attorney Guided CEQA Education, and is on here to be scheduled, and now it's not on here, but I'm going back to a previous item tonight to also have scheduled his structures of merit discussion. And then here we have also, I wanted to make sure we talked about this tonight. There's a work permit for 34 Taormina Lane. So this was put on here as future agenda items, or tentative future agenda items. And what was brought to my attention is City Council Ordinance 863, which is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ojai approving the establishment of a historic district for the Taormina community. And in Section 7, it states that the following modifications to existing structures are exempt from the requirement of a work permit. And one of the 4 is exterior improvements not visible from the street. And 34 Taormina is a flag lot that the driveway is on Taormina, and the property goes back and then hooks around to the left. And the addition to the front and rear are not visible from the street. And so this does not require a work permit. It requires a zone clearance. And so it will not be coming to you.
Does it have the same types of houses as the Taormina? It's not just beyond? Because there's the one road that's going back, the exit road,
It's a
going back on top has, other built houses that really aren't Taormina style, but this is one that's Taormina style?
It's Taormina style.
Okay.
And just so you know, the materials, colors, all that, they happen to be in line with exactly what's there and what the objects of record are within the historic resources report, or and the historic district, the Taormina Historic District requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So just so you know that. However, it is exempt from a work permit because you can't see it from the street.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. Can't see from street.
So, can I ask a request on the city attorney guided CEQA education? Once we do have that, can you send it to Matt and have him just take a look at it and see if it suffices what he thinks that we need to look at, or if he would like to supplement it?
I'm sorry, send him what?
A link to the 3-part talk that we have now, once you pay the $500, we will have access to just have him take a look at it instead of having him have to put together a CEQA presentation for us. If he looked at that and he thought it was good enough, then maybe he wouldn't feel like he had to. We could use his time more working on the code for the structures instead of CEQA if this education component that we are now paying for is good enough in Matt's eyes for us.
Yes, of course. However, this, I guess that's kind of up to the commission, because this is in parts and at different times of the year and different subjects. And I didn't realize that it was like CEQA education. So, and I don't also, anyway, I don't know that he's even able to see a list of all of the seminars and
Yeah,
and presentations and such
So
that are going to be provided to you?
if he had the name and password, he could see the 3-part boot camp CEQA education that I talked to him about. I think I actually talked to him about this at our joint council meeting. And because he says, yeah, that'd be a good start or something. And he could look at it, maybe he wouldn't feel obligated to put together an entire presentation if it's already been done. Just trying to use Matt's
Okay, so
time
you're
wisely.
I'm sorry, that wasn't clear to me. You're talking about a very specific three-part.
Three-part.
Okay, you're talking about, I thought you wanted me to send him this flyer.
No, it's a 3-part CEQA
Okay,
boot camp that teaches commissioners CEQA education.
okay, so I don't even have that yet.
Yeah.
So,
I would just, well,
Okay.
I just saw that it's on here. I didn't want to have Matt,
right, but I don't have this yet, so I
Yes.
didn't even
I
know
just-
that it existed.
sorry, I just didn't want him
Okay.
spending a lot of time trying to think of how he's going to put together a presentation for us if maybe he didn't have to. So,
Okay, so that was tentative future agenda items,
Excuse me, Mara.
and yes.
With this thing, I can't really hear you directly.
Okay, sorry,
So
I'll
what
make
was
sure I
the
keep my
thing
head up.
about the Terramina that they're bringing?
I'm sorry, what's your question?
What was the thing about Terramina on the future?
So there is on your tentative future agenda item, there's a work permit for 34 Taormina Lane. And it's been brought to my attention that we have this, well, I knew we had an ordinance. However, the details of the ordinance. Ordinance 863, City Council Ordinance, is when the City Council adopted a historic district for the Taormina District. And in it, in Section 7, there are exemptions. And one of the exemptions is that exterior improvements not visible from the street. And 34 Taormina is a flag lot. The driveway starts at the street, and then I forget at the moment, but I believe the driveway may be 57 feet long. I don't quote me on that. And then the property swings around to the left. The additions are not visible from the street. So it does not require a work permit. It requires a zone clearance. And I wanted you to know, though, in reviewing it, the materials and the colors just happen to comply with the code, the objects of record within the Taormina district. So I just wanted you to kind of be rest assured, even though it's not going to be coming
So that
here.
it's not visible from the street because of the way the property's oriented? It's not because they've got trees or something?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, long driveway, and then to the left.
Yeah.
And then there's a house on the other property in front of it, and it's not visible.
Yeah.
Kind of an unusual situation
That's
in
another
Taormina.
issue, too, because that's the way you always treat historic districts, is what's visible from public. But it's not written in our code. So someone might argue like these people did, well, so we should visit that as well with the attorney, because when we put together the downtown historic district, we also want that to be the rule. That
Right. Well, this is very specific to the Taormina district, because I have another project right now that you cannot see unless you're in a helicopter and you land on their property. But they're they're affecting the outside of the structure, and therefore it may require, I still haven't done the full review, but it may require a work permit. But you cannot see it from any street.
Because what we learned with at these programs we went to is if it's a landmark, it's 360 degrees.
Okay, well,
But if it's a contributing property, then it's what's visible from.
Okay. Well, the landmark that I'm talking about, you cannot see it from 360 degrees
Yeah,
either.
but they would still,
So-
it's different because it's the whole building that's being.
No, I'm talking about another project that you cannot see it, but it's not in Taormina District, so it does need a work permit. No one can see it, right? I'm sorry, it's not.
With drones nowadays,
Are we finished, Commissioner or
Wait,
Chair?
Commission comments?
Yes,
I have a comment.
I have a couple.
Okay, you go first, me go first. So this is a very bad example of what I'm going to ask, or just have you guys think about because of the time. But we are the only commission that has our meetings at 5 instead of 6. And I think when we're trying to get 2 more commissioners, one of the things that City Council talked about at their last meeting about the commissions is how can we do outreach to get qualified people. And I talked to our field director, and he is on the commission in Oakland, and he said that the time originally was 4:30, and they changed it to 6 because people aren't off work yet. And if you have somebody who's a professional, maybe an architect or someone who might have something to bring to this commission, we're really limiting ourselves by starting at a time when no one is off work that has a regular job. So like the parks and planning and arts, I would like to have you guys think about starting this at 6 like it used to be. I guess sometime a while ago it was changed, but tonight is not a good example of my idea. So that's my comment.
Does anybody know why it changed to 5?
I think it was 5 way back before when I was on.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I don't think it was 5 when I was on here before.
Oh, really?
No.
I'll look on our Wayback Machine and see. So the point is, if we move to 6.
Turn your microphone on.
It is on. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Sherry. I tell you, they have spies. So the point is, if we moved it to 6, it would make it more available to others.
To people who maybe have to get home to, dinner or kids or jobs, it would widen the pool that we have of people who may be interested in, and then seeing the time and think that they can't.
So Planning Commission is 6.
Every other meeting in town is.
Is
Yeah.
Parks and Rec 5?
Yeah, I looked, they're all 6.
They're all 6? Really?
It's just us.
Board. Well, they're 5:30.
5:30. I know I was there last night. It's
But
a
out of the
state
4
coming.
commissions and council, it's all 6 o'clock
Okay,
except us.
so let me go to our staff liaison.
If you'd like me to put this on the next agenda so you can take a vote on it?
Well, I was asking. You're the one
Well, the question
more
is,
affected because you have to
Oh, it's
start
not
at
up to
6
me.
instead of 5.
It's not up to me.
And
It's
you
up-
know you
it's-
come at 7 in the morning, I know
that. I'm not a vote. You guys are the voters.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to be considerate because,
Oh. Okay,
Cool.
do you want to know what would happen with me on that day? I would come in at 8
sweet. There we go. Way
instead
to
of 7.
dip the scales and change it. Okay, sweet. So, yep, so,
To put that on the next agenda?
sure.
And then you can talk about it again and take a vote.
Really? We're the only ones at 5? I thought there was one other, Parks.
we're it.
Okay. We missed our you did the planning report, 34 Taormina, right?
I talked about the future agenda, and I don't have any other planning, community development related information to share.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So commissioners report, we got that. I have 2 others. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go, Craig.
I've been we've been working on the downtown historic district, and we've got so much good information that the amount of additional kind of putting it all together is going to be minimal. But I think we would really benefit as we come into the home stretch to have a professional work with us to just put it all together in a way that crosses the T's and dots the I's and make sure we've covered everything. So I'm just wondering, I saw that we had $10,000 in our budget, and I wondered if that could be a topic we could discuss, is coming up with 10,000 or whatever it would take to take that report that Caltrans had, and then the stuff that we're gonna add with the new properties and put it together into a bulletproof report nomination.
I would like to say that we always had a budget, and in our budget was, we would take it and we would decide which HRRs, like what properties we were going to look at. We had a list. There was the Boyd Center. We talked about it every year. And then when we decided to do the downtown historic district, we pulled back from using any of those funds, and we kind of stopped talking about them. But the way we were talking about it was, our thought, which is probably incorrect, was that we kind of not use any money for those years. So at the end, we would probably have to ask for something to get us to the finish line. So that was kind of in our head originally when we were not, because every year we would decide, we would talk about it, we'd take a vote, we'd take a priority list, and then we would start to see who we wanted to work on a nomination, or who came forward, or what we did. But we haven't used any money in a very long time.
This is true. Okay, no, great thought, so something to think about. Maybe put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
What is that exactly? Because
Well,
Ojai
it'll
is-
just be part of the downtown historic district report, so.
But
is-
like, we
is
have
the-
to go through each property and put the objects of record and kind of tie the narratives together. And I think we've got most of it conceptually going, but we just need that final report.
Yeah, I don't know that we have any idea. We guessed on an amount, and it was prohibitive. That's why we did the ad hoc, so.
I think that it'll just be more of an advisory, just to kind of help us.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, just to help us with that final, just not to necessarily do a whole report like we were talking about originally, and we, between our, the Caltrans report and our landmarks and all the other random properties that for one reason or another over the year had to do an HRR, it's minimal as far as needing more information on properties. It's more just in making sure that what we're bringing forward to council is exactly how it should look. So it's not necessarily the person to do a report, it's more someone to advise us what that should look like, and to make it as clean and good as it could be. So we're not sure who that person would be.
So we don't have a lot of loose ends at the end like we've experienced here, that we'll have someone who knows the ropes, who can kind of help us tie it.
Yeah, so maybe we could start to individually research and see who that person might be.
Sure.
Maybe ask our field director and Sherpo office and see what they say.
Well, maybe even the company that did the Caltrans report
Exactly.
could just kind of finish the job and put it together in the form of a nomination.
Okay, well, talk about it, let us know at the next meeting. Yeah, no, that sounds good. Yeah, because the code section says that it's supposed to be done by a professional. And we always thought of our ad hoc committee. Well, we when we were discussing that, we said, well, there was the one done by the Caltrans, and that was hopefully professional enough for the.
Well, and it'll help if there are any legal issues.
Yeah,
too.
no, I agree with it.
Qualified person putting their name on it.
I agree with it completely. asked for the $10,000. I'm still wondering how I missed that in our budget. But then I think about the Art Commission, and I was just totally overshadowed by the amount of money that was in the budget for them. So that might be why I missed our measly 10 grand. For 2 items. So one is the Harry Hunt Senior plaque update. Last word I had from Trevor, Sharon and I know him really well, was that it was going to be delivered in the mid-December timeframe from the foundry. There were some issues with the foundry and the design. So that's the latest information I have. And the other thing is that this is just kind of an update. I have been going to the Ojai Unified School District meetings. I went last night. Phil Moncharch, the attorney, and Atticus Reyes, who's the president of the board, both emphasized as a part of their discussions, they're talking about right now whether to move, how much to move from the Legacy campus over to Matilaha. I think they're doing a good job with it, but both of those individuals stated without reservation that they are not looking to touch anything that is landmarked in the part that's there in the frontage. And so, you know, they get to that item and then right after that they make a break. And so I mentioned that, and they wanted us to know that information so that we have, you know, we can say, have some, feel a certain assurance that it's being watched out for. And again, that was something that they asked that I relayed.
They got a lot of blowback from the neighbors about the industrial.
The transportation,
Yeah.
yeah, but that doesn't have anything to do with us, so.
No, I'm not saying it does.
Yeah, they did. Their November 1st meeting. But I knew that. I'd already been walked through the park and got accosted or got tapped by people thinking we had some kind of sway on that. I said no. So, yeah. Anyway, that's all I have for those 2 items for commissioner comment. Anything else? Yeah, Lauren's still awake over there and doing well. She's excited. We have less comfortable seats. Only Rick and I stayed with our original seats. Okay, well, anything else?